What is up, everyone? We are live. Yeah, I was actually just watching that. That's why I didn't start the show right away. That is pretty crazy, the stuff they're talking about over there. Yeah, guys, definitely go check that out afterwards if you haven't already, and go subscribe to this channel. These guys are live right now on Julian Dory. Definitely go over there and jump on it and check out that podcast that's going on right now. I'm sorry to interrupt that, guys.
More
over there. So here's yeah, what's up, UFO-Shane? Thank you for the membership, man. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. It really helps out with the monthly commitments there. That's super awesome. I'm glad you like the content, and I hope to keep it up. So thank you for that, and thank you everyone else out there in the audience. Yeah, definitely go check that out afterwards. Yeah, what's up, guys? So we're going to talk about this that came out on Chris Cuomo project about 4 hours ago. I just finished watching it, and I just got a whole bunch of stuff to say about this. Let's just start it off from the top, and
and working in the Department of Defense, just like the rest of the government now, is now just dismissed as deep state. What do you want people to understand about the reality of what you've learned about the culture of government and how partisan people are or not?
Well, thank you for that question. It's a great question.
You guys hear okay?
So one of the things that people don't understand when they bring up this deep state issue is that there is a civil service bureaucracy. It can be very sclerotic. There's a lot of inertia, but that affects both parties. There is not a skew against conservatives or against Republicans typically. In my experience, for example, the FBI, which has come under so much criticism, has always been a very conservative organization. The great majority are white male FBI agents who vote Republican, in my experience. So the notion that somehow, there's some kind of conspiracy or some sort of anti-conservative animus, I think is mistaken. I think both parties encounter resistance and struggle to get their initiatives pushed through and supported by the bureaucracy. I've worked, as you mentioned, in both Republican and Democratic administrations, and I saw the same thing in both. And I never detected on the part of the civil servants any particular partisan bias. It was more a matter of resistance to change of either kind, in either direction.
Well, so first off, his argument right off the get-go is super, super weak, and he calls the deep state and says we're misinformed about what the deep state is, and that this is a civil service organization. And he repeats this again at 14 minutes.
Argue that those videos didn't damage national security, but yet another video of precisely the same ilk would. I mean, it's pretty far-fetched. And I happen to know the individual who created the class guide, and he was a long-term career professional. And this is an example also of where the so-called deep.
So this is pretty amazing. This is right at the 14-minute mark if people want to go to this. A little bit before this, he admits that he's the one that gave Leslie Keane of the New York Times those videos. They came from him and his organization. So that's pretty revealing. Let's just keep going with this, because this is where he gets
state, which is really just and he was a long-term career professional. And this is an example also of where the so-called deep state, which is really just the civil service and the bureaucracy. And again, it goes both ways. Both parties struggle with this. Blinders sometimes. This person had spent their entire career in the intelligence community and the Air Force. And their immediate reaction was secrecy. We've got to protect everything. And it was a genuine instinct to try to protect classified capabilities and sensors. But even that individual now admits he overreacted. And at the time, I argued that this was inappropriate. They were, privately, they were going too far. But that.
So I just want to focus right now. He goes back to the UFO stuff and tries to, recover from this these blunders and these seeds that he's planting in people's minds about this is what the deep state is. So when we talk about the deep state, we want to talk about, yes, exactly what these guys are talking about right now on
who has
on Julian Dory's podcast. So these guys are talking about the deep state connections and some deep state players, and the FBI is part of that apparatus, and we'll get into that as well. Some of the comments that Chris makes here about the deep state. So one of the things I want to do is Senator Inouye, Secret Air Force. So this is the famous speech on the shadow government that Senator Inouye, who he talks about in this next part, Cuomo talks about this. This is key to listen to, because this is the first we heard of the deep state in congressional Senate hearing. Is when the continuity of government program was brought up. And the continuity of government program is key to the deep state and what is meant by the deep state. And studying this small group of players is key to understanding so many deep state events. The planning and inception of events were formed at deep state think tanks like the continuity of government program.
A shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances, and free from the law itself.
So what Senator Inouye is talking about there, this secret shadow government and secret Air Force and secret all that stuff, right? Yes, and that's going to come out too, the patents on the Bendall stuff. My friend's patents are from 2013. I can't find any of Bendall's patents, but I know people who have been working on this stuff and real scientists. There's some legit stuff to it. The free energy crap is baloney, but the emissions stuff is real. I'll get into that a little bit when I get that guy on. Yeah, Johnny, definitely. But back to this whole issue of the deep state, right? And Mellon's take on the deep state and glossing over of just some of the information. What happened was there was this thing called the Iran-Contra scandal, and these were the Iran-Contra hearings where this deep state stuff started to get brought out about the secret Air Force. Now, you can learn about the United States' secret Air Force if you look up Operation Air America. And this is a whole deep history of the CIA's front company of an airline company that was a CIA airline, that it was a whole secret Air Force that they ran. And Oliver North was part of that, big part of that. What they did with this Air Force, this super secret Air Force, is they outfitted planes for smuggling cocaine and drugs. And they were smuggling drugs. Drugs came one way, money, computers, and ammunitions and weapons and war supplies went another way. There's lots of movies and stuff made about the real thing that went on. Narcos has the deleted scene with the CIA planes. They took this out of the. It was released on the HD version, but on the television part, they left out like the parts from the Narcos series where it showed like that the CIA was, deeply involved in the drug cartels. In fact, Zapata Oil's South American headquarters was in Medellin, Colombia. So lots of interesting deep state connections when you really want to get into the deep state. And, Christopher Mellon, he worked under Clinton and George Bush administrations as a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence. And here he is curious enough. Oh, I don't have that up, but this is his wiki page if we want to look into it. And yeah, it's let's just go into a couple more things that Mellon has to say in this interview.
A shot.
Because
Really solid president.
And their immediate reaction was secrecy. We've got to protect everything. And it was a genuine instinct to try to protect classified capabilities and sensors. But even that individual now admits he overreacted, in the belief that this is crazy and you shouldn't take it seriously, in part because the US government fostered that belief deliberately. And also, you know, what is true for many of us, and the research shows this, most people don't bother to look at the facts or do any independent research. The average person, if you say, do you believe in, you know, man-made climate change or not? The answer you get is going to be based on what their friends think, what their group thinks. If they're a conservative group in Texas, they'll probably say no. Or
what they want to be true as a function of their own identification.
Yeah. So a lot of this, for many people, what is true and what they believe is not based on an examination of data or facts. It's based on what their peer group thinks. And people like to fit in and they want to go along to get along, and it's easier that way. And there's a huge, you know, traditionally the overwhelming view has been that this UFO thing is crazy. And it's hard for a lot of people to shake that. It's also a difficult thing to process. So I think there are a variety of reasons that you still get that kind of reaction, even at a time when our government is saying flat out, this is real. This is happening. We don't know where hundreds of, you know, we can't explain hundreds of cases.
They need to say that more and louder. And I am shocked. Again, this issue has really grabbed me, and not because I believe that they have alien bodies. I don't know if they do. I don't know if they don't. I'm not going to stake my reputation on it, but I'm open to it. But most importantly, I want to know. And what bothers me about this issue, and I did direct it at the White House, but only because they're so, you know, they're coming into an election year where they're like desperate for a winning narrative. Why wouldn't you grab hold of this issue and say, I'm going to be the guy who makes the government that I'm running tell us more about this stuff, even if it is, yeah, Chris, there are hundreds of things that we know were here that we have no idea where they came from. And we know nothing more than you do. And in fact, most of this stuff is not found in military airspace. It's, you know, there are people with cameras all over this world. There are billions of cameras out there that capture things. You shouldn't only be hearing from us about it. Even that would be such a great issue to grandstand on as a politician. I mean, they stand on complete bullshit all the time. They'll make up an issue and use it to advantage. And this one is real and right in front of them, and they won't touch.
Yeah, well, they make up issues a lot, and they make up solutions too for the issues. So it's a Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution. They tell you what the problem is so that they can offer the solution, where the solution, and of course the big coup de grace of this whole interview, is the solution that Chris Mellon offers, which let's listen to Chris Mellon's solution.
Schumer amendment. So Senator Schumer has introduced a rather extraordinary bit of information that would require all agencies and departments to release all information they have on UFOs, on UAP. And if there is any information which they claim should not be released to the public, they have to submit it to a presidential commission that would be established by this legislation that would independently review that claim that it shouldn't be released. So that is a potentially huge step forward. It's unclear. It's going to take time. They have to appoint people to the commission. Then the agencies have to begin the process of collecting the records.
That's a huge step forward. So his solution to this is the Schumer amendment. It's legislation. Schumer amendment's cool, but I have a better solution, dude. We're not going to get any answers out of government, because at the end of the day, the government goes to scientists to figure out what's going on, especially with stuff like this. And right now, the government scientists suck at what they do. Their engineers suck. NASA is absolutely an in shambles and should be ashamed of itself for what SpaceX has been able to do with a fraction of the money. Elon Musk is building, rockets that outperform anything that NASA's produced in the last 20 years. And they're doing it at a fraction of the cost. You guys suck. You guys waste exorbitant amounts of money and you just flush it down the toilet, dude. And honestly, I after NASA's last engagement with and their last hearing on UAP, or UFOs, whatever you want to call them. It's like, what is NASA doing? These guys are a joke. We should be giving the money to private industries and private organizations who are doing way more than these companies could ever do at a fraction of the cost. And they're not involved in 60-year cover-ups, since 1958. To think that NASA is this organization that was just formed in 1958 out of nowhere. Well, it came from NACA and it came from the Ames Research Laboratories Space Center and a whole secret space program that the CIA had at Redstone Arsenal from 1945, Operation Paperclip, until 1958. That's 13 years of a secret space organization that existed before NASA. That's what NASA was birthed out of and was created from. The NRO, the NSA were all created in 1947. The U.S. Air Force and all this stuff went super secret, and there was always a secret organization. And then NASA came along in 1958. And since 1958, it's been a front company for the secret space program, which is the NRO, the Kennan spy satellites, all the satellites that we put up as these, the Hubble Space Telescope, and what's the new one, the James Webb Telescope, right? These are all like knockoffs from money, and they were all built by the same companies and contractors that built the NSA spy satellites. So you just turn those telescopes around and point them towards the Earth instead of out into space, and it's a much more valuable target in terms of financial and intelligence capabilities to watch what's going on down here rather than to watch what's going on up there. I don't trust, dude. Why would you trust Mellon? Bro, this is the guy that came out with those videos and blew up all this stuff. So they're admitting now that this is the game that's been put out there for us to see right here. Okay, with these fellows, because Mellon came on the scene in 2016. I think in 2018 TTSA came forward. He came out in that big TTSA first press conference. So they had that first press conference, and Mellon was the one who had the picture of the #1 party balloon. If you recall, I don't think you can even find the original on here right now. It's probably censored off of there. But he had the party balloon, dude. And that was immediately discredited. It's been ridiculed. So he's only added to the ridicule and stigma since the get-go. They promised people a spaceship with this TTSA organization, took investors' money, and then basically gave them a media company and a bunch of crap instead. And with Tom DeLonge and that whole group, and Elizondo is supposed to, and these guys were supposed to bring disclosure and all this stuff out. And now we got him saying that his solution to this is the Schumer amendment and legislation. And that's how we're going to fight the government and win at this game and this whole thing. Oh, I hate to tell you, man, I hate to tell you, but the way we're winning at this and the way we're getting way more information out about this than anyone else in the game, any of the Black Vault got nothing on us. As far as the quality and the level of information that we have disclosed right here on this channel. And we are #1, bro. We have interviews with the scientists, with the technicians, the people who worked on these programs, and we invite more and more all the time. Anyone who's involved in research on this is welcome to join. All these people up here are people that have presented or attended the conference. not only people that have attended, mostly people that have contributed to the information here. And we have some world-class scientists on board and some people that were directly involved with NASA and Ning Li, people who knew Ning Li and some of her colleagues directly were able to comment directly on intelligently on those stories and reveal new information and secrets that people weren't aware of. So the real intelligence here, you can listen to intelligent spooks like Mellon, or you can go to the real intelligence, which is the scientists. And what we're doing here with altpropulsion.com and the APEC conference and the research that we're into is about bringing, these scientists who worked on the actual programs, people who, had as close to this stuff as there is. I mean, this isn't like Bob Lazar where he has no evidence and he has an ID badge and some stories and stuff, or one of these guys that just trust me, bro. I have some great stories and I know some people. No, I know the people. We have the people, man. Like you don't need to pay attention to the intelligence distraction and the game that they're playing out there. In fact, that's exactly what they want you to do. That's the disinformation, man. And it's not about the UFOs, and we shouldn't. I'm not into UFOs, dude. And I don't want to get anyone into UFOs. When I see UFO videos, I usually just scroll past them and I don't pay attention because there's nothing to learn from UFOs. I mean, the stuff that there is to learn is in the science, and it's in the scientific literature and in the papers. And we have just mountains and mountains. We have a database on this stuff, guys, that is deep. We do deep dives on the database, and there's just there's terabytes worth of files and information. We've gotten these researchers that have literally come to us and said, wow, no one is doing what you guys are doing and what you guys are putting together. I have a story to tell, and here we're going to share and boom, they dump all their information. We've had lab cleanouts where, we've had to go to people's labs and clean out all their equipment after they die, and we get all their stuff. So we are ahead of the game. We're ahead of the game with the scientists. Jack Sarfati's on board, man. He knows that he understands if anyone's got a chance of actually building this stuff and doing it, it's us. And Jack knows that, man. That's why he jumps on board. That's why he's come on my podcast with Russell Targ and these other guys. And we've gotten down to, nuts and bolts on the physics of this stuff because it's real. There's people working on it. There's been people working on it and tons of different projects that are real projects. Some of them still classified to this day that you can't talk about. But guess what? We get all the science and there's back doors to all that classification in government bureaucracy that you're trying to fight with the Schumer amendment. This is like what you're proposing is the solution. Bro, we've gotten so much more actionable intelligence out of the scientific literature and out of the scientific community than you'll ever get from the Schumer amendment or any of this stuff. It's just a fact. And I want people to check out altpropulsion.com and check out Ronald Evans, check out Tony Robertson, check out David Chester, check out Jack Sarfati stuff, check out even some of the other conference people that we posted. Like I don't know, James Woodward, Nathan Innan, the Woodward Estes Park Propulsion Conference that existed. Was the basis and inspiration for the APEC conference. Go check that all out. There's tons of information out there on this in the scientific research realm, and the science is the way out of this. The science, it defeats. We've cut through so much stuff just going after the science. Yeah, and if that's true, like and again, I don't believe everything Sarfati says either. And the MK Ultra stuff. I'm not into all that. We get a mix of ideas here and combat them in real time. Me and Jack argued to the death about time travel. Which I don't think is real. I just don't. It doesn't exist in my reality, and can't. There's no room for it. But some people believe in that stuff, and that's fine. That's okay as long as you're bringing some sort of scientific, educational infrastructure to the, yeah. And don't forget Todd. Todd is an engineer, and Todd's been, you know, right in there with writing papers with, you know, Hal Puthoff and some of these guys, Bernard Haitian, doing research with, you know, the Lockheed Martin PhDs that were hired to study this stuff for Lockheed Martin in the Skunk Works program. And when Ben Rich was talking about taking ET home and stuff like that, this is these are the real people. We've tracked them down and got them on the team. Todd Desiato has the Warp Drive Tech channel. You guys, you can go check out his channel. He's far undersubscribed. It's just these people,
Career professional, and
these
this
people,
is
you know, 2 million views, and you get guys like this putting, who will basically, you know, put out any kind of disinformation for a paycheck that you know, as long as there's a paycheck involved, that they're going to put it out, and they don't care. And you know what? He's getting couple 100,000 views this is going to get in the next day or two here. And you know, I can't compete with that here on this channel, and unless you guys are out there sharing this stuff and doing actively, like, disseminating the information, because I can't do that by myself. I don't have the reach or the platform to get there. Now, if you guys can do me a favor and go to this video and thumbs up my comments, make a comment of your own, the link's in the description down below, and let's try to see what we can do about breaking through some of the wall of disinformation here. You know, because we got Chris Mellon on here basically calling the deep state a civil service, you know, not understanding anything about the deep state or who's involved with the deep state. In fact, I want to get into, and then his comments about the FBI, and they're a conservative organization, and you know, it's just such nonsense. Let's get into the FBI and the whole history of the FBI. Conservative organization. The first director of the FBI was J. Edgar Hoover. He was a cross-dresser, and he was having an affair with his FBI like deputy director, Clyde Tolson. Basically, they were gay with one another back when this was completely, you know, illegal and permitted by law. So this guy's a criminal, you know, prosecuting gay people and going after people and you know, exposing the, you know, collecting intelligence on gay people and all this kind of stuff. Well, he's a closeted homosexual himself, and that's the guy who started the FBI. That's your director, J. Edgar Hoover, and this is documented fact that he was involved in this. So much for conservative, you know, and all that values and whatnot. Then you have people that are experts in cover-ups. You know, people that are just the guys that are good at protecting individuals from official investigation. So the FBI is basically the FBI has basically become an organization that protects the deep state from legal investigation. It's a legal protective barrier for the deep state, and this is just blatantly apparent. You go into, you know, the people that investigated the assassination of John F. Kennedy for the deep state, and most of them became whistleblowers, and were either killed or had things happen to them as a result. Ted Gunderson was one of them, FBI investigator and later whistleblower. Another one was FBI Boggs. What's his name there? Hale Boggs. Yeah, so Hale Boggs was another guy on the Warren Commission and another FBI investigator of the JFK assassination. And they put him on a plane, and it went down over Alaska, him and another guy who was in the plane with him, who was also involved in some interesting stuff. Yeah, so yeah, they kill these people. If you're involved in anything like legit and you work for these organizations and you stand for justice and truth, they'll fucking kill you. And this is real. This is the deep state that, you know, he's not talking about. The same FBI that encouraged Martin Luther King, civil rights activist and leader, to suicide himself. You know, they literally wrote letters to the leader of the civil rights movement trying to get him to kill himself. And there was a whole organization at the FBI's COINTELPRO file. So they had a whole operation under the FBI during the 50s to the 70s called COINTELPRO, which they had every single black student at this one college under surveillance under COINTELPRO. They were trying to actively, prop up violence inside the Black Panthers, insert agents. So they had agents in the Black Panthers, FBI informants and provocateurs that would incite riots in the group, and then get people arrested so that they could try to set things up or start plans internally within the group so that they could later uncover them and bust the group for domestic terrorism plots that were themselves conceived of and perpetrated by FBI informants. A whole number of very interesting ways that they would take down groups. They would make an organization of a similar name, slightly change the name, and then commit all kinds of acts under that organization to discredit the original organization. There was a whole number of things that were exposed during this, and it would never come to light. This would have never led, no amount of legislation or Schumer amendments or files or any of the crap fucking bullshit solutions that Chris Mellon offers in this retarded interview that he gave with Chris Cuomo will work. It would have worked toward any of that, because the COINTELPRO FBI files were actually acquired through a burglary. Yes, that's correct. People actually broke into the FBI's offices and stole these documents, and then they mailed them to reporters, and most of the news reporters didn't even want to touch the story. They didn't want to have anything to do with it, right? So the fact that we have Chris Mellon telling us that legislation's going to bring this out is a I'm sorry, it's a joke, dude. And if you believe that or support this, then you're fucking stupid. Because the only reason we have the COINTELPRO documents is because on the night of the Muhammad Ali fight with George Foreman, a group called the Citizens Committee to Investigate the FBI broke into the FBI offices dressed in suits and ties and dressed like FBI agents. They went and did this whole robbery with a whole bunch of them. They cased the place out ahead of time and knew their targets, figured it out. And they broke into all the FBI's files and all their vaults, and they let the cat out of the bag. They made tons of copies of the information and then sent it to all these different news agencies. And the FBI was caught with their fucking pants down. It was hilariously embarrassing, and a record in American deep state history that Chris Mellon seems to have conveniently forgotten in his assurances of us that this is a conservative, historically conservative organization. Now, two other names you should know if you want to talk about deep state and FBI connections is John P. O'Neill, who was killed on his first day at the job as head of security at the World Trade Center. Yeah, he was hired to become head of the security at the World Trade Center. Very interesting setup there. This guy was the leading expert on Osama bin Laden. He'd become involved in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing investigation, and assisted in the capture of Ramzi Youssef, who is the main leader of that plot. Youssef testified that he was given explosives by the FBI and told he was given a van with fake explosives, but in reality, they were replaced with real explosives. So he said that he was participating in a drill for the FBI and that the FBI had hired him to drive this van full of explosives into the World Trade Center, and that it was just part of a drill and that they were using a fake explosives in the van. But someone in the FBI had replaced the fake explosives with real explosives, and then implicated Ramzi Youssef in the plot, according to others, including FBI agent Ted Gunderson's testimony. So yeah, we still don't know the whole story about John P. O'Neill and how he ended up working in the World Trade Center and for who and what. and all the people involved there, because lots of suspicious and interesting connections that people can get into if they look into the tenants inside the World Trade Center. It's a fascinating investigation and rabbit hole to go down. But it's pretty much a map of the American deep state, all the CEOs that worked inside these buildings that didn't show up to work that day. And no, it wasn't the Jews. And even though there's some interesting names of that descent and who are involved, there's a lot of other people involved. So in any case, people want to look into Louis Freeh, the director of the FBI on 9/11. And the fact, one of the most interesting things about Louis Freeh is that after he left the FBI, he went and became a lawyer for Bandar Bush. So Bandar Bush is Bandar bin Sultan. He is the Saudi diplomat that was identified in the 28 redacted pages of the 9/11 Commission report, which implicated Saudi funding behind the 9/11 hijackers. So the guy who funded the 9/11 hijackers, Bandar Bush, he hires this guy as his attorney after 9/11, after in the years later. Louis Freeh becomes his attorney. So you just can't make this stuff up. But this is and Mueller, of course, so Freeh steps down right after 9/11. Mueller takes over. Mueller handles the 9/11 investigation because Freeh didn't want anything to do with it, because he was so directly hands-on involved with the people who set this all up, that he didn't possibly want to touch that hot potato. So Freeh gets out of there. Mueller, the cover-up expert, as we know, how he covered up other high-profile FBI investigations later on. He gets in charge of the FBI in their investigation into 9/11. The week of 9/11, you can look this up. The entire FBI was flown to Monterey, California for a company-wide retreat. It was reported in the media. It was taken out of a lot of the official news reports. They censored it, but it was reported in the media that week the entire FBI was flown to Monterey, California for a company retreat, including the entire counterterrorism task force. So they had purposely moved the FBI agents who would have seen through the terrorism operation on 9/11 out of New York City and to the other side of the country. Well, they grounded all flights, and making it almost impossible for those people to make it back there. So the entire FBI investigation, criminal investigation of 9/11 was compromised heavily. And so this is what we mean when we talk about deep state and deep state connections. And it's all tied to this hidden government group, the Continuity of Government Program. This is an article by Peter Dale Scott that every American should read and learn about, the Continuity of Government Program. And this amazing, this is a government conspiracy of silence, and this is decades long. Exactly. So the first thing we should do is not trust the government and use legislation and those types of avenues. Those are like proven avenues that will not work. If people want real answers, they're going to need to form things like the Citizens Committee to investigate the FBI. They're going to need to form organizations which infiltrate and expose these files and locations and individuals in ways that have not been thought of before is essentially the only way that we're going to get out of this. Not encouraging people to commit burglaries and whatnot. I'm just saying that that's the level it's going to need to take to basically get those files released. No amount of declassification is ever going to bring something that incriminating out of one of these organizations. They're not going to publish it. It's never going to fucking happen. redacted or not, you're not going to get it through that. And then they've done a lot to button up those avenues and make sure things don't leak out through those avenues. They're very good at keeping secrets, despite people's allegations of incompetence. That's often a ploy that they put incompetent people as the ones that supposedly in charge, like they did with the Bush administration, that Cheney and Rumsfeld ran from the shadows. They put an incompetent looking person in charge to make it look and seem as if, it was just incompetence. And, the CIA just happened to not connect the intelligence that would have prevented 9/11, with the August 16th memo that warned of possible attack on the World Trade Centers by Osama bin Laden, or any of the Able Danger data. So encourage people to look up other whistleblowers too on this. J. Michael Springman is one of the people who worked at the Saudi embassy in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and he said that he was ordered by the CIA to grant visas to the hijackers, thereby allowing them to enter the country. That he had originally denied the visas, but was basically told by the CIA station chief at the embassy there that he was required to put these visas through, and he testified to that. It was a whistleblower. Not talked about. Also, pre-9/11 intelligence, Tony Schaefer, is a guy named Anthony Schaefer, testified about the Able Danger program, and the intelligence officer right here, U.S. Army. So Anthony Schaefer, if you guys know, wrote a book, Operation Dark Heart, and was a member of the Able Danger Project, which was intelligence fusion or fusion center for intelligence. And there was basically, they took these fusion centers for intelligence and disbanded them as much as possible. That's what George Tenet did within the CIA pre 9/11, so that it was very hard for the FBI agents to share intelligence with the CIA and vice versa, so that there would be this complete breakdown. So this was deliberate, and it wasn't intelligence failures or just mix-ups. This was deliberately orchestrated at the hands of Central Intelligence Director George Tenet. George Tenet, as you know, was the longest acting CIA director, and left in 2006 to join a very interesting company called Kinetic, which does metamaterials and other classified research. Which is interesting in and of itself, more deep state rabbit holes to go down. But yes, so all this stuff with Able Danger and the Able Danger controversy, it was all deliberate non-sharing of intelligence, and that's what we mean by deep state. There's also interpreter Sibel Edmonds. She became an American whistleblower about the interpretations, the translations of the bin Laden tapes, she said, were faked. Some of the bin Laden tapes looked like they were deep fakes made by the CIA, claimed to have been, found in housed in, raids in Saudi Arabia, and claimed to contain footage of Osama bin Laden taking credit for the attacks. And she claimed that one of them was an incorrect translation because she spoke fluent Farsi and Iranian and also Arabic, several languages. She's an interpreter that worked for the Central Intelligence Agency and the FBI. Oh, sorry, the FBI, not the CIA. So anyways, yeah, she is an FBI whistleblower that people should look up as well for more information on the deep state. I'm not going to tell her whole story and get into her. But yeah, definitely look into her, and also look into Susan Lindauer. And I had met Susan Lindauer, and she had, I have met her before when she came to Boston and spoke. She's a fascinating woman, fascinating story to tell about her involvement with the CIA and the pre-Iraq war intelligence that was fabricated. So, people can believe, we understand now that, George Tenet fabricated pre-war Iraqi intelligence and basically made up the case for WMDs in Iraq so that we could go into Iraq, which was essentially the whole goal of all that. And yeah, so George Tenet there is directly implicated in both preventing pre-9/11 intelligence, also fabricating the intelligence to go into Iraq. So he's a war criminal, willing to lie and fabricate intelligence to meet CIA objectives and goals. And when we talk about deep state, this is the type of people we want to look into and talk about. So let's talk a little bit more about some deep state players, like Paul Bremer, right? So Paul Bremer became the Iraq occupation governor. He was the guy who was placed in charge of the Iraq invasion. It's interesting what he was doing before 9/11, because he was working for one of the main tenants inside the World Trade Center. In fact, his office was directly in the impact zone of the North Tower. The American Airlines Flight 11 crashed into Marcia McLennan's secure computer room. So he missed work the day of 9/11 to go on MSNBC to give the first pronouncement that anyone had ever heard of the official story. He blamed Osama bin Laden and possibly Iraq and Iran, and said that we should have the most severe military response possible going forward. That's Paul Bremer on MSNBC the morning of 9/11. Later becomes the Iraq occupation governor and the guy in charge of that whole thing. So when we talk about deep state and deep state connections and players, this is who we're talking about, Mr. Chris Mellon. Okay? So the MSM are the number one enemy of America because they will never report on these people, these organizations, or their ties. Another interesting one, I probably shouldn't get into this because this one might get me in some trouble, but whatever, we're going to do it anyway. So this guy, not that guy, Gary W. McDaniel, very interesting fellow. And he works at Leidos Corp. Now, Leidos Corporation is, so he says Leidos Corporation, right? So he spells it wrong on purpose, so you can't really, or something. It's weird. So this guy went to National Defense University, and he's currently the vice president of Leidos Corporation, a division manager at Leidos, right? So Leidos Corporation, if people are familiar with them, they make all the airport scanners. So if you've ever been to the airport and you look on the side of the machine and see who makes those very expensive, very complex, sophisticated people scanners that everyone has to go through and wait an extra hour in line at the airport because of 9/11. Yeah, well, he works for the company that made billions selling those things, Isn't that awesome? So yeah, you can go look him up. I mean, I don't know why, no one's ever pointed this out and why I had to go and find this on my own. But yeah, he's the vice president of Leidos Corporation. Do you know what he was doing on 9/11? Do you know what Barry McDaniel worked for? He worked for the World Trade Center security firm, Securicom Stratosec. And Stratosec, they designed the World Trade Center electronic security system. So all the electronic cameras, all the badging, all the equipment, access to the World Trade Center was handled by this guy's company. And they also handle security at Dulles International Airport and United Airlines. So tons of the places that were compromised and had security, failures on 9/11, allowing the hijackers to board the planes and everything. It was all connected through this one company, Securicom Stratosec, and its CEO, this guy Barry McDaniel. You can look this up and do the research on this. Aviation General, these other companies, very interesting connections. Cuomo, Kuwaiti American Corporation, which ties it to the first Operation Desert Storm, the first invasion of Iraq. So the same companies and people that were involved with the deep state's first invasion of Operation Desert Storm, where we had to invade Iraq to protect our friends in Kuwait, because Kuwait were such, friends of ours that we had to, step in and do that. So, I mean, you got to think about who could have had access to those buildings. There's a lot of talk about, there's thousands of architects and engineers questioning how they were brought down. Well, who had access to the buildings, to the cores, and to all that stuff? It was a Bush-linked security company, where the CEO of it now he's a division manager at Leidos Corporation, which made billions selling airport scanners after 9/11. So a lot of people ask, oh, well, why'd they blow up the buildings if they, why use planes at all? Why not just blow up the building, blow up the towers like they did in 93 and say it was a truck bomb or something? And I said, well, they wouldn't get the airport scanners in the airports, and they wouldn't make all that money if they didn't use the airplanes. So, you got to look at who stood to benefit from these technologies that were not well known about in 2001, but a select group of people could have leveraged against people for that process. Now, the other thing interesting about the airport security on 9/11 is the only evidence they have of the hijackers boarding the planes was in Dulles Airport. Actually, so there's no footage of the hijackers boarding in Portland, the ones that hijacked the planes out of Boston, because they flew to Portland, Maine first and took a connecting flight from Portland, Maine to Boston, because Portland had lower security, supposedly. So the only footage we have is actually, I think, the footage from Dulles Airport, and some of the timestamps are off on that. I think it says September 10th on the footage. And so it's very, very curious, the evidence that the official government story has provided for the hijackers and for the official story. All of that could have easily been manipulated or flawed. And I've talked about I don't know if you guys have seen the X-Files predicted 9/11. That episode, that was when we talk about the deep state, we talk about, well, who are the writers, the script writers for this lone gunman plot for the X-Files spinoff episode, which predicted 9/11 with like stunning accuracy. Like, so much of this is, and this was aired in March of 2001, like months before 9/11. So whoever the script writers were that knew about this stuff, they knew about remote control plane technology. They hijack the plane by remote control while they're on the plane, and they fly it into the World Trade Center in this video. They fly it into the World Trade Center using autopilot and a computer hacking control device, which is crazy if you think about it. But it's not so crazy when you consider the missing airlines flight of MH370. Now, the Malaysian plane, the MH370, has never been found. And it is a known fact that 20 of the people on that plane, there were 20 people from Freescale, 20 staff members from a U.S. technology company called Freescale Semiconductor, which makes powerful microchips for industries and including defense. So when you start digging into some of those technologies that were worked on and some of the patent holders and their related scientists and people who are researching some stuff, there's radio frequency coupling structure and a method of manufacturing thereof. So these coupling structures for radio frequency, that's RFID chips, basically like smart dust technology is what this is. It's these little tiny smart dust chips. Then they have anti-radar systems in vehicle, multi-frequency radar vehicle, the receiver devices, automatic radar system and method for using. So they have ways to spoof radar. All right, system and method of configuring an external radar device through high-speed reverse data transmission. So they high-speed reverse data transmission and can spoof the radar signal into an external radar device. That's great if you ever want to disappear your plane or do anything like that. I mean, yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, there's none of these people on that flight disappeared for any reason or to hide any of this technology, right? Radio frequency coupling structure and method of manufacturing thereof. So they're working on smart dust semiconductor technologies for people contact tracing. And this was in 2016 before the pandemic. And they're also working on anti-radar and spoofing and jamming technologies for airplanes. Well, that's real interesting. You know, this is kind of like some of the people that were on board American Airlines Flight 77, which crashed into the Pentagon, who were from the Americans Radar Physics Group. And they were working on some very interesting and similar technologies of, ways to use Boeing commercial aircrafts and to set up anti-hijack systems. So in case, someone hijacks your airplane, you can shut down the cockpit controls and take a remote control flight of the plane and fly it from the ground. And the pilots on board even won't be able to control it. Well, you don't need hijackers. You don't need terrorists. And you don't need to rely on their crappy skills for flying planes. To do any of what you see in 9/11. It was all in the X-Files script right here, man, if you watch the video. But the crazy thing about it is the last 12 seconds. I don't know if we can find this video anymore. Yeah, so this is a good video to watch. This video shows the last 12 seconds. Because the first tower was hit, and that was kind of by surprise. The Naudet brothers were there actually filming a documentary that morning, and were lucky enough to catch the first impact on camera, right? Just so happened to be, right? So, but by the time the second plane hit, the towers were smoking, and lots of cameras were already focused on the towers. So the second plane strike was filmed from nearly every conceivable angle. And it's very interesting when you observe the flight characteristics of that plane, because these are the simulations, and then it shows like the actual footage. And so they do a simulation, and then they overlay it with the actual footage of the flights and stuff, and they're able to simulate in real time through all this triangulated data. So they got this from all these different angles. So they took that data from all the angles, and they're able to estimate the exact flight path that the plane took it before it hit the buildings. And it turns out that the plane that the second plane that hit the towers, if you plug all that data into the cockpit and the controls, and you take the flight path and you plot all that data into points and put it in a simulator, the simulator looks like it was controlled by a damn robot. Okay, it's so perfect. So they map out the last 12 seconds of the flight, and they show that literally a single corrective maneuver was made in the last 12 seconds. So it literally, if a human was doing this, you would have made it. You'd constantly be making corrective maneuvers to fly that plane, right? That's how humans fly planes. But when you remote control fly a plane and put autopilot controls into it, it looks much more jerky. And that's exactly what was observed when you see that second plane that came into the towers on 9/11. It made a single corrective maneuver in the last 12 seconds. It had to have been computer controlled, like according to the analysis. Lots of people have done this. And again, you look into the missing Malaysian flights. Like I started looking into this yesterday, and I didn't believe it, but you find all the patents for this stuff. And the same thing exists with this Systems Planning Corporation and the Radar Physics Group. a number of people who were involved in this research died on AA-77, and I have their names somewhere, but people have never really uncovered that mystery or gone down and really revealed what that was all about and what they were working on. In both cases, I think both these things need to be much more thoroughly investigated in terms of deep state operations and planning. Of course, Systems Planning Corporation has a lot of subdivisions and other companies that work under it, including one called Tridata Corp. And Tridata Corp actually they actually helped with the 1993 World Trade Center bombing investigation and repairs of the World Trade Center. So SPC, the same company that was specializing in anti-hijack airline remote control flying technology, also designed and rebuilt the World Trade Centers and got access to all the blueprints of the World Trade Centers for that operation. So again, when we talk about the deep state and who should have been investigated, but weren't, because people like this were in charge of that investigation, okay? This is the FBI and the corruption that, we're really talking about here. And that's the reality of it. I don't know. I'm going to open this up for questions and see if anyone else out there really wants to, would like to jump in. I see some awesome people out there in the audience, guys, and don't think I'm ignoring you. I'm just on a roll here. Yeah, so it's activism, but it's ran by people who they call me dangerous because I'm a 9/11 researcher, and that I had John Greenwald block me, just simply for asking him questions about the Black Vault. The Black Vault. He has statements that he had made in posts that he had made about. Sorry, no, where am I going to find this? No, there it is. So he had posts on the Black Vault that John Greenwald had made about, saying that, I can't, I've done FOIAs for 9/11 and there's no peer review, or there's no documentation, there's no official documents from FOIA that prove a 9/11 conspiracy. And, I pointed out that when I searched for SAIC, I don't get a lot. I get the Stargate program and the CIA's remote viewing program, but I don't get, any of the later SAIC stuff. Securicom, let's just look up Stratasec, because that's more. They were sued for another company called Securicom, so they changed their name to Stratasec, so that's more specific. So nothing comes up on Stratasec, nothing comes up on Kroll. Nothing comes up on Convar, which was bought out by Kroll. They're the ones that were hired by Deutsche Bank to do the analysis on the hard drives recovered from the World Trade Center. So they were trying to find evidence of financial accounting fraud on the hard drives. And the company got bought out, and before they could really release the information, really strange stuff that went on. Or how about, Systems Planning Corporation. Okay. Yeah, that's a more generic one. So you're not, Systems Planning Corp. You're going to find more stuff, but there's nothing specific that you find as far as documentation on any of these companies. Which, if you really want to get into 9/11, it's the companies and the corporations that you have to investigate and look into and have the files on if you want to talk about 9/11 FOIAs. But to be like John Greenwald and claim that they don't exist is just, it's an insult and a slap in the face of legitimate deep state research and legitimate government research to finding out the truth about what happened. I don't want to believe this crap. I would love for somebody to come along and fully debunk it for me, man. But it's just, so... Yeah, the truth is dangerous, man. People don't want to know this. They don't want you to know this stuff, definitely. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. Yeah, we're winning, dude. their plan's over, man. Like they don't realize how badly they've lost and how people are coming along, man. People are really doing a number on this. So yes, so and that's true too. It went down in building 7. Yeah, right. All right, guys. We'll let's see. We get some questions from the audience and some people to jump on. Oh, we got Tupacabra, man. What is up, dude? And
hello.
Link is out there in the StreamYard link right there. So if people want to join in and jump on, they can. What is up, my dude?
Oh, I'm just enjoying the show, man. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I'm using the computer mic. But yeah, this is good stuff. I think this is such an interesting aspect of deep state research, which definitely overlays with UFO research, right? Like there's a clear element of discomfort that has to take place if you really want to dive into something like government secrecy and the deep state cover-ups of these things, these issues that we really enjoy looking into. But it's hard to find details. It's hard to find facts. Because of these cover-ups, right? We got redacted paper after redacted paper. We have proven conspiracies. Yet, when you go into the realm of like, what was behind 9/11, it becomes very uncomfortable for a lot of people, and it's because it just forces everyone to question so much stuff. From the media control to just the amount of control they have over our perceptions of reality, to present something that is so orchestrated and so clearly suspicious, but do their best to create social norms that make people afraid to talk about it. So having like UFO, like well-seasoned UFO researchers is who I'm normally coming across, right? It's interesting to find groups of people who, even within that group of people, who's very suspicious of the government and very aware of the conspiracies of silence, still consider things like 9/11 or these types of government ops untouchable.
Yeah,
And I
Nick
think
Pope, a good example, man. He's like super hardcore against 9/11 and other conspiracies, even though he thinks that they're covering up aliens and UFOs. So it's like, well, if they're able to cover that up, man, what else are they able to cover up? That's kind of how I got into UFOs. Actually, it was the other way around for me. I got a 9/11 CD in like 2002 or 2004, and I started like looking into all this stuff, and I'm like, what else are they really lying about and hiding,
Mm-hmm.
And that was like when I got Behold a Pale Horse and read that, and then I just went, I'm like, all right, I'm in, I'm in for good now. What's up, Shane?
What's up, man? Dude. Killer show, brother.
Heck yeah, man, we're killing it. So this is good. We're getting some connections between the deep state and also UFOs, because we get into some of the contractors and some of the individuals, and you find that there is some overlap in the secrecy. With George Tenet, for example, being responsible for handling all the pre-9/11 war intelligence and all the pre-Iraq invasion war intelligence, and then him leaving the CIA in 2004, and in 2006. George Tenet goes to work for Kinetic, this company, which is the basis for Q, in the character of Q in James Bond. This is like basically what the In-Q-Tel is to the CIA, Kinetic is to the MI6 over in the UK. And they are like the spy agencies, techno advisors that build all their spy gadgets and all their, telephone shoes and crazy
telephone shoes.
Yeah, that was from maybe Get Smart, but the CIA had the communicator hidden in the shoe.
Oh, they had everything though, right? They built all these things, and that's I was talking to somebody earlier about you're talking about John Greenwald and FOIAs and things like that. And here's my thing about black projects, right? For all the leaks that we've had, or was it 9/11 or whatever, that's what Imagine what has happened that they'll never release, that you'll never know. You know what I mean? We have Stargate and all these other things.
Dude, we only have a portion of the MK Ultra sub projects that have ever been declassified, and most of that data was like burned or destroyed.
Oh yeah, it was thrown right in the furnace, man. They were strapping people down the tables and just injecting them with everything they could imagine to try to control their minds. And that's what we know. What do we not know? right?
Yeah,
Like that's
like-
like honestly, you can't just assume that it's all in the sphere that you understand, right? It blows my mind that people think otherwise.
That's what they're best at, is controlling the questions that we are aware to ask. If we don't know to ask the questions, like if they can present us with a heart attack gun, but they have like 38 different things that can explode your liver from a laser beam in space or whatever, like they never have to talk about it, right? They say focus on this, never ask these questions. So yeah, you're right, Shane. I think you got to wonder, what are they not telling us about?
And how many people were killed with a heart attack gun device, which was, you know, an untraceable neurotoxin that
It was a ball.
disappears.
It was a metal ball, right?
It's
Is
an
that what you're
ice
talking about?
dart.
Oh, the
thing
ice
had to be
dart.
kept-
Okay, yeah.
It had to be kept frozen, so you had to keep this thing in
That's
the
correct.
freezer, and it had an ice dart, and the ice dart contained a little bit of the shellfish toxin. Okay.
Oh
And
my
the
god, dude.
Now there's this
It's so
shellfish.
crazy. It's so crazy, dude.
It's so fucking crazy, right? You won't even hear this about but yeah, it's called Conus geographus, and there's a cone snail that lives in the Great Barrier Reef, and they're called cigarette snails because if you get stung by one, you have about enough time to smoke a cigarette before your entire nervous system goes into
Oh
complete
my god.
neurotoxic paralysis.
Now when was
and
it, when was this? Like 1946? Like when was this like prominent? And from what we can understand through the research.
Right. So what this does is that actually it's very hard to trace the shellfish toxin. The venom has a very high toxicity. You only need 0.012 milligrams.
Oh my god,
kilogram,
micrograms,
And
right?
it's so exotic too. You would never think to look for it.
You would
Yeah,
never.
you wouldn't even know this exists or this creature exists or anything. That's
Right.
crazy.
Yeah.
What
so
else have they made, dude? What else are they doing, man?
Well,
I bet they
have
got animals.
The thing is, heart attacks are very common in men, 50 years of age to, 70.
Isn't that what happened to George Van Tassel though? Didn't
So,
he like drink like a brisk iced tea and look at his brother-in-law and go, "They got me," and then he fell over dead before he finished the Integratron?
Right. I don't know that story, but I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt there has been people killed. We have
Anyone who had a patent for a watered car definitely got hit by this bullet.
Frank Olson, they just, back then they just threw you out windows. They didn't,
True.
Yeah, they just tossed your ass right out the window, dude.
yeah, they just, they just pull a James Forrestal on you and
Poor
send you-
Forrestal, man. Poor guy. Rest in peace, brother.
So
He got chunked out at the psych ward even, and they had a new guard at the time who had no idea what was going on. They were like, "Hey man, here's $40 to walk away for a quid," and they chunked his ass right out the window.
yeah, he got Jeffrey Epstein, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing when we talk about the deep state, we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein and people like that with their connections. So where you have this connection to Prince Andrew royalty, British royalty, Bill Clinton, former U.S. president.
I'm from Arkansas, brother. My uncle worked for him. If you look up Roger Perry, that's my uncle. He's in the affidavits, and he turned on Bill because when Bill gained the presidency, he didn't get taken to the White House with him. And my cousin Keith, Roger Perry, and my cousin Keith would go to the governor's mansion with his dad, and they'd be watching porno and all kinds of things, dude. Bill Clinton's a fucking freak. He's I didn't mean to say the F word. I forgot about.
Well, Bill Clinton, who Bill Clinton did take to the White House with him was the coroner.
Of course he did.
Who declared those two boys who were clearly murdered in Arkansas.
It's called Two Boys on the Tracks in Mena, Arkansas, baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
that was the Clinton Chronicles. I heard about that first.
Yeah, if you look up, if you FOIA that or get the files, dude, every part that Bill would be a part of is, guess what? Redacted.
Those two boys in Arkansas directly connected to, freeway Ricky Ross, right? It's just because it's the same. It was the drug trade. That's what they were trying to hide. That's what
they were low flying Cessnas and dropping cocaine on the tracks. And but guys, just be honest here. Sometimes when you die randomly on the train tracks, you cover yourself with a tarp as you die to get hit by a train. That makes total sense.
Sometimes when you're just smoking weed on the train tracks and you get hit, stab wounds appear.
Yeah, they just manifest, dude. It's just a phenomenon for sure.
Dude, yeah. So the coroner who declared those kids a train accident went on to become some major deal in the state and then in the government, and then later on got found out that, oh, he's corrupt, and all of these cases had to get overturned and looked into because he was just that corrupt. He would do whatever the cops wanted him to do. To declare
if you look up
whatever
my
they wanted.
uncle Jeremy, it should come up. He was on Jimmy Carson, I think. It's Roger Perry, Bill Clinton affidavit, and he's still alive. I could get him to come on a show probably. He's still fucking alive. He's still freaking alive.
Oh
and,
man, I'm gonna call him up right now, man. Let's just
you want to call him?
no.
Call him up.
It's Uncle Roger. Let's get
Yeah,
on
Trooper
there.
Gate. Trooper Gate. There it is.
Trooper
Yeah.
Gate. Yes. Okay. Wow.
That's my
this is-
uncle, man. Roger Perry were first reported by David Brock in the conservative magazine of American Spectator. That's my uncle. I grew up with this man. He worked with Hillary and Bill in the White House, and I heard nothing but crazy. My parents took the thing they had of Bill off of their wall because of what happened to Roger. So
Yeah, I bet, man.
Dethroned.
Dude, I've heard some crazy things about what the Clinton organization did in Haiti with the children there, and that were
Oh my
displaced by,
lord. Oh my
earthquakes
lord.
and stuff. And
it's not even, yeah. You know, it's normal. It's normal to find yourself duct taped to a tree with a shotgun to the back of your head, and the shotgun's 40 feet away from the scene of the crime. It's just normal. That's how you die. Normal way to die.
And everyone thinks he's just this funny guy who's putting a cigar in Monica's,
playing the saxophone.
playing
You know,
Yeah, I was gonna bring up the
saxophone.
saxophone thing. Like, he just seemed like a cool dude. He was the first president. I mean, I was alive in '85, so Clinton was a cool president as far as I could tell. Showing up on
Yeah.
MTV, playing the saxophone on, like, what was it, like fucking Arsenio Hall? Like, he was crushing it.
yeah.
Way more than what was his competitor. Like way more. But then now you look back on it and you see, you see all this stuff. As
Oh,
an
these
adult.
people
This
are
is
sick,
bananas.
dude. These politicians they're twisted, brother. They
Well,
don't-
the Arkansas
people-
thing, really showed me like how you can how is that track laid out for someone to go from local government to president, right? And it seems to be the more fucked up stuff the more messed up stuff you do, right? The more stuff you can get corrupted by, the more stuff that someone can have over you, the higher you can climb and the faster you can climb. Because someone like Bill Clinton was continuously doing like really sideways stuff.
Siegel.
Very,
Is it
very
Barry Seal?
wild.
I thought it was Barry Siegel. Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree, Tupa.
But you go from Clinton to Bill Gates, even, and you
Yeah,
can see all
Seal.
these the connections between Epstein.
Oh, dude,
Right.
all the people who were witnesses of that. You know what's crazy is they killed those two guys, those two poor kids.
Oh,
And
then
there
they
were
killed-
all these witnesses. There were people in the woods that saw it, people off to the left that saw it. And anytime those people went to the police department to tell it about it, they got what? Shot in the back of the head in their
That's right.
garage.
That's
Or
right.
chopped up in their garage. Or their head chopped off in their garage. Back to back to people. Like one dude came out and said, "Hey, I saw this stuff happen." And he gave his parents money for his funeral that he had saved up. And he's like, "They're going to kill me." And guess what happened? He got ran over on his motorcycle like 2 weeks later and murdered.
Absolutely.
You can't make this stuff up. It's literally,
Yeah.
and then it's just like you said, Jeremy, you looked into in 9/11, and then it's just everyone's just blocking you. How dare you look into such a tragedy? And it's like, well, there's a lot of deep state crap going on here. I'd like to look, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe give me the chance to look into it. It's just like,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm not like sitting here, spreading hate, conspiracy theories and like hate literature, saying that it was, this group or that group. I'm naming names and like connections and just details and facts, man. It's like you can't be mad at me for that. Like if you want to believe that fire
find a
brought the building 7 down and that the official story is jet fuel, and then go for that, man. That's all you.
Yeah.
But like conspiracy facts, dude. Like that's what I speak.
Conspiracy facts.
And
Yeah.
if you don't get into that noise, because again, the best way they have to combat this stuff is to just muddy the water and flood the channels with the most, noisiest crap and that they can, stuff that makes people look into outer space at space lasers or offshore to a hurricane, anywhere they can get you to look, except for, into the people and the players and the facts and stuff.
It's like,
So,
where you're looking here, look over here, dude. There's bad water in Flint, Michigan, or whatever it is,
yeah.
It's always some bull crap, dude.
Well, people really underestimate the power of the mainstream media and how centered our culture is around.
It's owned by 3 people.
source. Exactly. It's owned by the deep state. It's if I was the deep state, that would be my number one tool. And then you see how it's used over the past, I don't know, 20 years. You're like, oh, okay. I can kind of see this now. That's my beef with Cuomo and with these like news sources coming out about stuff. It's really the what we're allowed to question and what we're not. It's the questions, Jeremy, that make people uncomfortable. Why would you question that? Why would you go that far in them? But they're worth questioning. Absolutely.
Oh man, I questioned David Grush one time and I got doxxed on Twitter like 15 minutes later. So
oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. Trust me, bro.
Yeah, just trust me, bro. I have all these programs and things, and look, I get that he's what gets me, and if you do go on TOE, I messaged you. I had Kurt on my show, and I messaged him and told him to have you on there.
Nice.
But when I had Kurt on my show, he tried to apologize for Linda Moulton Howe, dude. And I was like, no. I stopped the whole interview. I was like, no. You don't apologize for her selling fake alien videos, right?
Yeah.
You don't apologize for these people doing this bullcrap constantly. And then people message me, I met her at a convention in 2017 and she was very sweet.
I'm sure she is.
And
yeah, she's nice. I met her too, man. She was
still sold you a fake alien video. I've talked to Daniel Altman, Jim Marsh's protege, and he told me that Jim pulled her aside at that convention and was like, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you selling? Jim Marsh is a legend in my book. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you selling this fake alien bullcrap?
Well, these people, like, I got a lot of respect for the old guard because they sacrificed a lot of their reputation looking into the stuff that we consider fact now, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And in that process, it might have put them in a corner because they couldn't, there's no longer quote unquote respected journalists, right? They're always going to be these fringe people. Why not embrace it and then do what they can to continue their research or whatever? Not that they should be selling known lies, right? Or whatever. Like,
well, like Robert Dean. Like Robert Dean came out and said, I saw the estimate of the situation at NATO in 1974. Oh. Then you look up Robert Dean, he's like giving prophecies and I'm gonna quit ufology, and then he comes back in 2 years to give more prophecies, and it's like, all right, buddy, it's okay, buddy. Like, it's
or my all-time favorite, William Tompkins.
Oh man, William Tompkins, man, yeah. Like it's like I used to believe in all this stuff, Jeremy. I used to believe in all of it, dude. And then one day I talked to Chris Partel, and it all came crashing down. Like all of it just crumbled one day.
Yeah, dude.
It is what it is,
It's so crazy. But it seems like the crazier the stories, the more attention it gets. In some ways, sometimes,
Oh, 100%. The crazier the claim, the faster it spreads. Because
especially on Twitter.
Jaime his fake alien mummies, the balls on that man, the sheer grifting balls on that dude. I
give him credit for the presentation. He brought him out in these like satin lined coffins.
You think Corey Good or David Wilcock are master grifters? I got to give it to Jaime Maussan. That dude literally doesn't give a crap. He's just going all in.
I want to know how he what was the level of secrecy he had to have? Did he
then he got the scientists, or I don't know, were those actual doctors or scientists? Them off
with some pesos, baby.
It seemed like he just hired some people to dress up and like get put this just to keep it going a little bit longer.
I've listed his on my Twitter. I've listed multiple of 46, now 47 of his crimes, but I've investigated it personally, separately. I'm at 84. And he didn't just do the Atacama skeleton with Gary Nolan and stuff, and Gary Nolan did disavow that. But he did this little alien creature that they said they had to drown in battery acid. You remember what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, but what turns out is, and he was like, and it seems like one of the guys, he was killed by the government. He wasn't killed by the government. He was killed by the Mexican Sinaloa cartel for owing them money for cocaine, which makes more sense than being killed for alien bodies. And then the other dude that was still... Yeah, and then the other dude that was still alive came out separately and said, yeah, this is all a hoax. And then Jaime Maussan paid him like another, I think, $15,000, and he shut up. So he's all about, like, he's literally like extorting people left and right, dude. That dude's a joke. And then people, I've been argued with left and right at Tupanos about these mummies. Someone bet me $100, Jeremy, that the alien mummies were real, and I'm still waiting on that hundo.
Money well spent. It's a fun gamble, dude. It's a fun gamble.
I was like, I bet my soul they're fake. You just bet me $100 and I'll make sure I cash that out.
Yeah. You can tell right away about that.
Yeah, they look like they're covered in frosted flakes. Like it looks like you rolled them in like a batter of Frosted Flakes. I mean, it's so
Well,
stupid.
I will say this: the level of the gall and the ridiculousness, like the audacity and the how ridiculous they look, that gives me a little like
Look at the
1% hope.
pictures.
I
Look
hope
at
it was
chest
really be
bone.
so funny, dude.
Trust
'cause
me,
it's
bro. Like, just trust me, bro.
that ridiculous. Oh, the eggs in them too. The eggs is what really puts it over the edge.
And they're denser than the bodies. Like people don't even care about actual science anymore. They're just like, oh, there's eggs. Well, what about the density? They're 1,000 years old. This doesn't make any sense. Like, oh no, it's fine. They're aliens. Okay.
Yeah, do we get a yolk? Is there a yolk in there?
Oh
What's
my
going
God, look at them.
Oh God. Anyways, I guess people are, want to believe this in a lot of ways. There's an element of people that want this to be true and want this all to come out. But it's also like, I don't know. I just feel like that the science is the only way that we're going to sort this thing out, guys. I think that like the path that I'm on with digging into the scientists and the actual scientific literature and not this is a distraction, this stuff. When you get into the patents and you get into the scientists, the companies, the corporations, the contractors, that type of intel is the real key.
Yeah, I think you're following the right breadcrumbs there. That's why I love your show and your work. What do you think about Salvatore? It's Sal, right? Salvatore Paez.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. Sal Pays he's an interesting guy. He's got his own ideas on. So let's bring Sal Pays up. Yeah, so he's got the super force idea. He just released a new paper on the super force that he put out. I wonder if I can find that. Give me a second and I'll bring that up.
Cool. Would you consider him like at the tip of the spear of this stuff, or is there other people we should be looking out for?
He's gotten money for real research to and he's got 4 patents in some very different fields with some interesting stuff. He showed us where to get the PZT material, and we ordered some and have started seeing our
ask
own.
Kurt Mungle about it, Jeremy. He said he's going to have him. He's going to like look into it personally and see if it's all bullcrap or not. So he made that post like 2-3 months ago.
Well, Sal's done 2 interviews, right? One with Kurt already, and then one
but Kurt said he was going to go there
Jay.
and test it in person. So
that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah, like he's such a nice guy. But the work that he's doing and presenting is pretty fascinating. The idea of the super force, I don't know if I really get it. When he talks about it makes a lot of sense. But
I dropped myself out of there. Let me find the new paper that he shared here.
Now, is Sal talking about the ether?
Here it is.
Mars attacks, baby.
So it's not ether. It's not like ether like people decide, but there's he's talking about
like
the
Nikola
vacuum.
Tesla's ether. Oh, okay.
He's talking about the vacuum, and he's talking about like what's called the Schwinger limit, and that's the super force is a unification of the forces at this level, and it happens with quantum entanglement and also vacuum energy polarization, so that you can produce these high enough densities in a certain amount of space. So he talks about how to concentrate that in a certain amount of space, and then how to get that macroscopic coherence effect. I think he's on to the right path with a lot of this stuff, and hopefully people take this seriously, and more funding continues to go towards this type of research, because there is new physics here. There's new stuff to be discovered, and we're not going to invent the light bulb if we keep throwing research at candles.
That's what I've been saying though. In my spaces that I do, Jeremy, is like, a lot of our science came from mad lad lunatics that were laughed at. You made a post earlier about that, and this stuff we're going to discover. It's not going to come from what we call the normal, right? You're going to have to do something that goes out and finds whatever's in the darkness. Bring it into the light, and you're going to get ridiculed. You're going to get crapped on. Like Cosreb and Cosreb's mirrors and other things like that. So, maybe it doesn't work. Maybe what you do doesn't work, but at least you tried. You know what I mean? Like Isaac Newton had freaking mercury poisoning, and he discovered like the theoretical for gravity. So,
So he pulled through.
I don't get it. I don't understand like what happened, and I think it happened, I guess, somewhere around like after paperclip. But everyone's just like, these sciences are we have the method now. We didn't have it then, but we got it now. What you need to follow for sure. And if you look,
Well,
if you're not following the narrative, you're just ostracized. You get no funding. You get nothing. So we have to do it for ourselves.
Well, there's those scientific
Yeah.
norms, right? Like the academia kind of norm system that's in place, but then you include government secrecy that looks like something got discovered after the war, something beyond the nuclear program, something very important, very interesting, and probably easy to replicate. And the secrecy it's been on since then. And I think a lot of this stuff is about like Pace talks about a plasma physicist named Anthony Peratt. Jeremy, have you ever heard of Anthony Peratt or his work?
No, this is I was thinking Anthony Stormbringer or Stormbringer.
That's a really cool name if his name is Stormbringer.
I know, like my name is Anthony Stormbringer.
I'll take it.
I bring the science from Odin's realm. I'm like, all right, cool, dude.
What's
So,
this guy's name? Strominger. All right, so this is Andrew Strominger. So this is Anthony what?
Anthony Peratt, Perrat or RETT. Yeah. So he's a plasma physicist,
Ooh,
and what he discovered was that he was creating plasma shapes and formations in a lab at a small scale, right? Now, plasma and electricity is fractal based. It's scalable. It looks the same big as it does small or whatever. So like he's studying these formations and he's making some very interesting ones, and he's doing it with simple means. So he's not trying to make shapes. These shapes are forming naturally, and he's studying the natural ways that plasma in a lab forms. So he went out afterwards and found out that like a lot of these petroglyphs he was seeing on rocks and all around the world were identical to these plasma formations he was making, and they were very unique and specific. And so he came up with the concept that perhaps a long time ago, plasma formations were more visible in the sky. And these things were very, very interesting, like the idea of how massive these things would be. Because if everybody in the culture was painting them or carving them into the dirt or into the rocks, his theory is that they must have been up in the sky for periods of time. And I find that to be interesting, that because it's kind of a fringe idea, but here's Salvatore Paez talking about it, you know what I mean, with Jay from Project Unity. So yeah, I think his work is super important because it proves that there could be a lot of plasma elements in our atmosphere that we can't even see, but they might be there. You know what I mean?
That's what Stephen Meyer says. Stephen Meyer talks a little bit about that as well.
Absolutely. I like the idea of UFOs as plasmoids, and because they're very similar to plasmoids in a lot of.
Dude, I was sitting in that back room of my house, Jeremy, and I watched 6 red balls of plasma gelatinous light manifest right in front of my face. And I don't know what that was. To this day, I'd have no idea what it was. But it looked like I ran a CNC machine, and it literally looked like jelly, like fire, like plasma jelly, the plasma. It was just floating in front of my face. And the only picture I've ever seen close to it is from the Jackie Hernandez San Pedro haunting case, and that's why I'm getting more into like the ghost aspect of this, because I think it's all the same stuff. It's just a different mask it's wearing, right? Same thing, different like mask.
Well, that characteristic is similar to like a lot of the people who see like large orbs, right? Like 10 feet wide, 15 feet wide. And they say that the surface of it looks like the surface of the sun, like a fluctuating, plasma sheath almost is around these objects. There's that case too. I talked to this guy last year, and I think recently Liberation Times did a story on him. There was a soldier who's at a base, and a 10-foot wide plasma ball rolls over their fence onto their base. He happens to have night vision goggles on and looks at the object through the NVGs and sees what he can only describe as like what the old model of an atom used to look like, a bit like a sphere, like a nucleus, and then metallic spheres spinning around it, roughly in the same circumference or whatever as the original orb. And he was able to go, okay, like no night vision, sees a plasma ball, puts the night vision on, sees something totally different. So it begs the question.
I don't know if I have enough data on that to know for sure, man. That would be cool to know if there's some kind of correlation between the rotation of the plasma spins. But
Would
yeah,
be interesting. I'll send you the story.
so that's interesting. Plasma technology and a lot of this plasma physics for propulsion is what Amy Eskridge's father was studying for NASA.
Really?
Yeah. So she would always talk about her father, and she's like, "Oh, he's got the secret to anti-gravity, and I'm going to be the one to release it," and all this stuff is what she was telling us. But she'd never give us any specifics, and it was just a weird thing because we had this source from right inside NASA, but I just I didn't know how much I could trust her. Or is this the same guy? I don't think this is the same
Oh
dude.
my God, my rabbit is shedding so much right now.
But
Someone paid $5 to see my rabbit, Jeremy. So I'm pandering to the audience right now.
I think that was a euphemism.
let me just see it. All right, there's the rabbit. Oh, look at the size of that thing. Holy.
Yeah, he's huge, man. This is Stephen Mira. I named him after my favorite researcher. He's a big
Nice.
boy. I call him the God Rabbit. He's a good boy.
Oh, look at him. No, that's awesome. I wish I had an animal here. I don't. I have the lab. But yeah, Richard Eskridge, man, you look him up on NASA, and apparently he was doing a bunch of I've read some of his papers too. So
Really? I didn't know this.
Yeah, you can find some of his published stuff on NASA's website itself and whatnot. But apparently he's working on a lot of this plasma stuff for them, which was interesting, But I never got any direct information or knowledge, from her. She
Right.
never would. She was always like, I can't. If I tell you, like it. She's always like scared that people were going after her, and everyone's a spy. And that's why I was just not sure of her, because I felt like she was like either counterintelligence herself, maybe, something like some things didn't sit right with me.
Something was up.
About what was going on with all that. So
Yeah.
Well, it
I
didn't
know
end
my
well
friend.
either.
My friend Stoned Ape is really big into it right now. I know she's messaged you in DMs a couple times about it. I
Yeah.
started looking into it because of her.
Well, I had
So-
Frank. I think I don't want to miss. I think it was Frank Milberg come in. Her friend came into his spaces like afterwards and broke it all. Like he kind of broke down about it. It was intense and told us, it was very suspicious. You know what I mean? Like something.
Frank said that, huh?
Yeah, he's like something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a recorded space. I'll go find it and link it to you. But
Yeah.
it was Stoned Ape and Red Panda Koala who played it, and I didn't know. Like I heard it replayed. No, it wasn't Red Panda.
She
Koala.
is. She's in the audience, dude.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I made sure everybody knows I'm on here. Yeah, there we go. She said I heard that space 67 times.
Yes.
Here,
I didn't
jump
know it
on with
existed.
us, please. If you can.
She probably won't jump on with us, but she's.
But that's all right. Oh, all right. That's okay. No worries. But Parish B.
It'd be cool if she did, though.
What's up, Parish?
How's it going, guys? Good morning. Can you hear me?
Morning.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, I had a couple things I wanted to touch on. The gentleman mentioned Anthony Peratt. So I've followed and studied both the UFO phenomenon and other areas for decades. And one of them is the electric universe and the plasma model of the universe for physics and cosmology. So Anthony Peratt, so there's a guy named Wal Thornhill who
R.I.P.
and he's with the Thunderbolts Project and David Talbot, and one of them was a physicist, the other one was doing like history and trying to uncover where all this symbology came from. So he met Wal Thornhill, and that's how he discovered that those images that Peratt was creating in his lab were identical to what's called Squatter Man and other types of mythological images that are used and found all over the world throughout history. The same images, everything from like dragons, demons and goddesses, and people turn into stone, all the old stories about the gods and the thunderbolts of the gods destroying the world, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they met decades ago, and after their meeting, they formed the Thunderbolts Project. And so they're electrical engineers, plasma physicists, and
Right.
they believe that suns are electric in nature. So not giant nuclear explosions held together with gravity, but actually solid metal cores with a plasma sheath. And so I wanted to fast forward to something more recent. It's called the Sapphire Project, SAFIRE.
Yeah.
So the electrical engineers created in their garage in 2 weeks a working model of an electric sun, and it
A
uses
star in a jar.
an electric sun
Yep.
in a lab, and now
Yeah.
they have a generator. So get this,
Parrish, do you know who's on the board? Who's on the board of the Sapphire Project? Among others is Hal Putoff.
yeah, I know exactly.
It's weird because they had a bunch of like plasma physicists and these other people with like good reputations, and apparently, like after
Okay,
they
so
were-
here's
a
what
bunch
I'm
of those
getting at.
people left, right?
Here's what
Yeah,
I'm getting at. Here's what I want to get at. So this electric sun model that they have now, it transmutes elements. It creates elements.
Right.
It safely remediates nuclear radiation and is practically an infinite source of energy. It's incredible. So right now they're making a commercial product to use in fracking to remediate the nuclear wastewater. That's where they're going for a commercial application. But I believe, okay, so there's a physicist from like the late 1800s, early 1900s called Heaviside.
Oh yeah.
Jeremy Rice, you've probably heard of Heaviside. He's one of the old school physicists. So some of the stuff that he wrote in books back then were censored and removed. Like the pages were literally removed by forces to make sure that regular mainstream science didn't go down those routes. And it had something to do along the lines of electromagnetic waves bouncing off each other. And that those pages were physically removed from one of his books back then. And I believe there's a reason why modern cosmology and physics, they never have any predictions come true. They never make any predictions that come true. They make up fake ideas to explain why their forces don't work. Dark energy, dark matter. Dark energy was created to explain why the gravity model doesn't work on a spinning galaxy, because the speed of the spin is the same on the outside as on the inside. So they said, oh, there's this fake energy. So what I'm trying to get at is I believe the electromagnetic plasma model is where we are going to find all these truths, and it links everything together like a linchpin. And then, and I believe like the Sapphire Project is just an example of the power of these plasmas and electricities. Yeah. And when you combine it with mythology and cosmology and physics, and then UAPs, right? Electromagnetic, anti-gravity, that's all electricity and plasma, and it all ties in together. And I think this is where the meat is going to be found. It's not going to be found in these like 35-dimensional physics that only works on paper, and they can only show it with a computer simulation. Whereas you take this electrical engineering, these things are all repeatable at scale. So they make a sun in their garage. You can do experiments to test all these theories out at scale. And I believe creation is the simplest, most common sense answer is usually the correct one, not these fanciful, far-fetched ideas that modern cosmology and physics has us going down. And that's why there's been no major breakthroughs in those areas for over 100 years.
Well, there's been lots of breakthroughs.
No, I know that.
Mainstream
I mean,
physics
no,
and stuff,
no.
like,
in regards,
what have the
to free
Thunderbolts
energy-
project? What have any of those guys? Have those guys invented anything or come up with anything like?
Well,
that's serious, that's
yeah,
changed anything in the last 10 years?
Absolutely.
Well, a lot of it's pushed on the side. Wall Thornton, all these
Yeah.
guys are accredited scientists, but this
Yeah.
is more. I consider the Thunderbolts project something more of like it's an electrical engineer's like hobbyist idea. It's really, really good. So I found out that
It's a huge thing. I mean, they're
Thornton is
massively
I found
popular.
out that David Talbot was in my area, so I reached out and I had lunch with him a couple times. And he's the understudy of Emmanuel Velikovsky, who absolutely needs to be discussed and looked into, because these are just kind of scientists with alternative ideas about concepts like gravity and space. And at the time when the machine, right, of modern, I would call it astrophysics, like starts to pick up and become doctrine, his theories all got proven correct as we branched out into the solar system. So he predicted so many natural things about Jupiter, the characteristics of Venus, like all this stuff, and he based them honestly off of electrical engineering and human observation in the written record and the oral history of human beings.
So in regards to Wal Thornhill and Jeremy, to answer your question, there's many people that are electrical engineers in the world that are doing experiments in all sorts of areas and proving stuff all the time. So what I meant was in regards to the mainstream ideas in cosmology about gravity and about what runs the universe, what suns are made of, how planets are formed. They've got all these weird ideas that like planets were made through accretion and slowly came together from gravity and da-da-da-da-da. Whereas the electrical model says that gravity is a byproduct of electromagnetics. It's a byproduct, and those are more primary. So as far as Wal Thornhill, who's just one of the scientists in that group, he has made prediction he just passed away last year. He has made prediction after prediction after prediction come true. For example, about what they would discover when they sent those satellites to land on the comets. The mainstream model was that comets and things were just these big giant snowballs, and that's why they had these tails, right? And he's like, no, that's a solid piece of rock, like it's been coming from a planet, and he was proven right. The point is, they've shown that the whole universe is connected by these Birkeland currents, right? That connect. There's gravity wave. There's all these things that are connected, and that stars are born, planets are born. One of the things.
Well, they're like plasmoids.
Yeah. So the giant black hole picture that they keep showing everybody with the ring, it looks like a donut. That's a plasmoid, man. That is not a black hole. And now they're saying, oh, look, now this so-called black hole that has this gravity that nothing can escape is now spitting back out the suns that it ate formerly. It's like, no, those suns are being born. And so get this, in the Sapphire Project, when you watch their videos that you can find online as they built it and did experiments, and then afterwards they gave these talks, they discovered elements were being created. New elements were being created. Other elements were being transmuted.
Parrish, have you seen the documentary on Velikovsky? It's called like Worlds in Collision.
Yeah, all of them. I've seen them all.
Okay, so there's this amazing...
Let me finish my one last point.
Oh, sure.
They also discovered with this electric sun that little balls of metal were being created. So if you look at that at scale, that's evidence for planets. And get this, just the other day, a new story came out that they discovered a planet made out of solid metal. So that completely shatters their idea of how planets are born, right? So when it goes back to like 150 years ago, where electrical engineers were doing these experiments in their labs, and they were discovering all these secrets of power and energy, and this ties in with the Germans and the UAP and electromagnetics. Well, this is where we started seeing this push for this multiple, level, all this other kind of math stuff that, sure, it's exciting and stuff to think about, but they're still theorizing about it, and there's no real world applications for all these string theories and stuff. So I feel like they're chasing rabbit holes and dead ends rather than the stuff that's right here in front of us the whole time. And then when you say, and then why would they go back and change Heaviside's papers? Like, they physically removed them out of the books from those books way back then. Like, what are they trying to hide, right? Like, if they're going back and changing these books that were written 120, 30 years ago. So, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's the thing about that kind of stuff, though. Is like when it comes to the creation of planets and all that kind of stuff, we just have our science we base things off of, but we really don't know. I mean, hell, the moon is weird enough as it is, right? So,
well,
it's best to use the most modern science and the most modern findings. A lot of the stuff, a lot of our view.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to push back on that.
Real quick, Parrish, I just wanted to give a little context. There is a documentary on this called Worlds in Collision. It was produced in the 70s, and it's either called Worlds in Collision or it's about it, but it directly, the topic of it is how Immanuel Velikovsky was basically smeared.
familiar with it, yeah.
Scientists boycotted it as soon as his
Yep.
book came out. They
Yep.
were like, listen, no, we won't
Yep.
even be in your publishing whatever
Yep.
if you put his book out. So they essentially burned his book. So they canceled him, and he went around and asked these scientists, okay, so what was the deal? Because we want to know. And there's this great guy who's like, listen, he was very honest. He goes, and he basically represented academia and the publishing company. He was like, while we find Velikovsky's findings correct, he ended up being proven correctly on all of his findings. We don't agree with how he came to those findings, because how he came to them was he used the Bible and other like religious oral and written history to be like, oh, it looks like Venus might have actually been kind of a planetoid just kind of moving throughout the solar system, and it had a cometary tail.
Actually, the model has been developed a lot farther than that now, and this is where Talbot and Thornhill and them.
No, I'm just speaking as to what Velikovsky's theory was, what he presented in the book. Interestingly enough, this was all before satellites ever came out. This is all before we ever got real photos or real data of any of these planets. And he predicted Venus would have a reverse orbit.
Same with Thornhill. He's made dozens of predictions that have come true over the past 20 years as our instruments get a bit more sensitive and we're able to go out to these bodies, and it's showing that. But like I'm going to read one paragraph out of this end of this book I just finished reading, and it talks about like these old physicists. It'll only take me a minute. So it says, so 3 of the 5 great pioneers of electromagnetics, James Clerk Maxwell, Heinrich Hertz, and George Francis Fitzgerald, really did die prematurely at the peak of their respective careers. Bruce J. Hunt's book, The Maxwellians, provides a great overview. William Sutter's Franklin's 1909 Electric Waves does curiously omit the mention of Oliver Heaviside on page 115 from the index, and it goes on to talk about Oliver Lodge's Modern Views of Electricity. It does have these figures that imply this new type of science, and then the pages are mysteriously missing, and then it goes on to mention a bunch of other stuff about real life mysteries about all these guys who were at the top of their field, all dying prematurely. Now we see that today, right? We were just talking about the Malaysia Airlines and the free scale technologies, those scientists being taken, or like the powers that be that want to control the information and where things get studied, and so that they can keep getting rich from electricity bills and all this stuff. They don't want free energy developed. They don't want us to discover, all these amazing things so that we don't have to, be beholden to them. Right. So that same thing went on back then, and they literally hid papers, and then even Einstein himself said that his own theory is probably not finished and not correct. Yet every day we're reminded about his theory and his thing. And we've got all these scientists doing all this work about all these ideas that doesn't apply to real life. And it's just only works on this extreme math and on a computer simulation. Meanwhile, we've got these dudes doing real experiments that are scalable to the universe, right? You can make a small sun in your lab, and you can do these experiments and verify things, and then you can see what's going on with these new images coming in, and predictions coming true. Meanwhile, modern cosmology isn't making any predictions that are coming true. So I smell a rat in the whole thing.
Smell a rat, yeah. And let me ask something real quick. I want to ask Jeremy something, if you don't mind. And
I appreciate that. I just needed to say that. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Jeremy, have you heard of red mercury?
Yes, we talked about it a couple times on this show.
So I've read the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata, the Quran, the Torah, the Christian Bible, all this stuff. But when you look at red mercury, it comes from the Middle East, right? Like it's usually found in archaeological digs and things like that. And what do you think about it? Like what are your maybe is that what they use Vimana with? Is it total bullshit? Like what do you think?
Well, the thing is, we don't know of any, mercury that is this color. There might be something you dope it with to make that color. Of course, people. We did a whole thing on this because
you did.
There's some like electronics that come from the UK that have this stuff in it that was called red mercury, and it's
Well, Well, you know, in the Bhagavad Gita, the mercury drives, the way the mercury works in those drives, the way it's described is like it's not how mercury really works, but maybe it's how red mercury works. You know, I'm a big believer in the writings of the Hindu faith being like what people saw, not so much what they thought, because that stuff comes straight out of a sci-fi novel as far as I'm concerned. So it could just be looking for answers to those as well. So I'm open to whatever.
Yes, mercury is a good solvent for other metals. So there's lots of things that will dissolve in mercury. So there might be some kind of, like Ed Fouché talked about the mercury-based plasma that was doped with lead, cesium, and barium, or some other things, right? So there's this whole idea that you can take mercury and you dope it with some other stuff, and you can make this red mercury. There was another theory that, it's an isotope. So you have to take you stockpile a lot of mercury and remove this one isotope, but that doesn't really make sense either. But the interesting thing about mercury is it was the first superconductor discovered. They supercooled mercury, and that's when they discovered superconductivity. Another thing interesting about mercury is that if you have mercury in a glass and you are in a dark room, it will produce light simply by rotating the mercury. Simply by the motion of it spinning around in a flask will produce light. And this is, there's no physical explanation or literature on this anywhere.
Yeah, I only read about it. I have someone that lives in the Middle East, and they translate like newspapers for me and stuff, and it comes up like quite often. Like I'd say once or twice a month. And then you look at Teotihuacan and the things that was found there, or the first emperor of China's tomb and the Mercury River there. And then I think to myself, mercury is very poisonous, right? It's very my mic was muted. I don't know how everyone heard me talk.
Yeah, I can hear you.
But it blows my mind because it's very poisonous, right? So I'm wondering, like, how in the hell did they get all this mercury here and why? And then I look into red mercury, and there's like weird vampire claims, and that's all bullcrap, obviously. But I just, I don't know, man. Like red mercury, the black market for artifacts and things in the Middle East is $2 billion a year. And red mercury, for me and my research, keeps popping up over and over again through ancient tombs and things like that. That's their claims. I'm not saying it's real, but with Teotihuacan and other places, it kind of blows my mind a little bit. And you being like a scientist, it kind of, just figured I'd ask.
Yeah, it's interesting because, we've looked into this a bit, and also the color change thing with that. There was the other superconductor, right?
A silver color, right? Normally, right? Silver, right? Silver colored.
Yeah, it's colorless.
Right, exactly.
Like pure metal.
So I guess if you were to add something to it, it would turn red. Maybe. I mean,
it'd be hard to mix anything. I think it'd be hard, like because
it's a solvent.
It's a solvent. Like the interesting thing about it is that it's liquid at room temperature. So the possibility of mixing stuff into it might work, but that stuff might need to be warmer than room temperature.
Well, I know you know this, Tupa, but Jeremy, I don't know if you know this. I had a guy come in on one of my shows, and he said, "Hey, I built this free energy device. It's not working right, and it blew out all the lights at the local Dollar General." And you know what I told him? "You're full of crap." I was like, "There's no way this is true. There's no way." And he literally drove 3.5 hours, picked me up, took me to his house, showed me his machine. I went to the dollar store when he wasn't there, asked them, and he did blow out all the lights at the dollar store with this machine. And he used mercury to do it.
Right.
Like, I don't know what it was, or I'm not a scientist, so I don't know. But it was like, and so I'm all in on red mercury right now.
Well, they loved it back in the day.
Oh, someone showed you this and did it, right? Huh?
Oh no, he drove 3.5 hours to my house, dude, in a blizzard, and literally
Tell
a
him to
snow
come
blizzard.
Dude, why can't these people come to our lab and show us, man?
I can get him. Dude, I know where he lives. And this is the thing too, is he had a compound, dude. He had frequency machines in there that you would have to have a lab to have these machinery. I'm talking, you know what I mean? Like, not like a little machine, Jeremy. I mean like a big, like, industrial machine that he was running frequencies through the mercury with, and that's how he caused the whatever happened to the grid. And he took me to Dollar General to buy like some Tostitos or something. And he left the Dollar General, so I walked up to the counter. I was like, "Hey, do you know that guy?" Like, "Yeah, he blew out all the lights here. He paid for all the lights to get rebuilt. He also owns that entire street back there. He's super loaded." And I spent 3 days there. I outdrank him. Also, I drank that dude under the table.
Did he ever turn the machine on while you were there?
Yeah, he did.
See, all these technologies just validate what Velikovsky and others have said, is that there's 0 point energy available all around us. And, until we, he used the 369 code as hints on how to uncover it. And he used to say, like, you can send this energy anywhere on the planet in any amount at any time, and it's freely available. And then there's a guy in Africa who just a few years ago built a free energy radio TV. He put a little thing on the back of the TV, and it collects the energy from the ether and powers the TV. Now he's building motorcycles and helicopters in Africa.
He's gonna get shot in the back of the head.
I know. Well, right now he's got
what I mean?
working models, but I'm just saying, this technology, like all these different ways of accessing that energy, right? There's many different ways. Even the ancient Egyptian art shows.
When you say energy, are you talking about the ether?
Like this energy that's all around us.
I've had Scott Walter on my show. He talks about like the ancient stuff with Timothy Hogan and the Knights Templar, Arks of the Covenant, the King's Chamber box, and all this stuff. And then it just comes back to me as like, what we're using to power this, or in monoatomics, Miskith gold, the cakes, the Pharaoh's ate.
The cakes, the monoatomic gold cakes.
Monoatomic gold cakes that Jim Mars talks about. And like, I found a couple of Jim Mars's things he talks about that on, but they're always really rough and they always get taken down immediately when I find them, dude. Like Daniel Alton can't even give them to me, dude. I've tried everything.
Well, Eric Davis came out and talked. He backed up the ether. He's in a video talking to two other
Nikola Tesla backed up the ether, and like when you flick your light switch on, that comes from the same guy, right?
But in the battle, right? Old between the ether and relativity, right?
HARP technology is based on Tesla's work. All of it.
Ether lost out to this theory of relativity. So Eric Davis talks about this. He said, when culturally we believe that the theory of the ether was gone because of relativity, but Einstein talked about
that's my point.
Space-time being a fabric that can stretch and bend, which is exactly what the ether was. So he just renamed it. So that's what Eric Davis says. He says that the ether still is live and real. It just renamed space-time as a fabric, but it's a material. It's a medium that everything in free space.
I saw a video a couple months ago of a guy where he just took like a copper wire. He nailed it to a 12-foot piece of wood, stuck that as an antenna, and then he had that wire come down into his room, and then he wrapped it around some coils, made a few solenoids, and just having that passive thing in the air, the guy was able to power stuff. Like, it's literally, with the right knowledge, that easy to just gather this energy that's passive. And then there's companies today, I can find them if you want, and I'll share the links,
Jeremy,
that use Tesla's technology right now, and they're doing that very thing, passively gathering electricity from the environment. And it's like all around us.
When it comes to all the like the ether and stuff, like show Wardenclyffe Tower. Like Wardenclyffe
There's some company out in Texas building these things, and
they went out of business. That company went out of business, and you know who that was that did that?
No,
it was former government workers that did that thing, and they were using their science based off of Wardenclyffe to give free energy. And they actually had someone go to a mountaintop in another continent, and they got energy from the source in, I think it was like Texas. But they went out of business, I believe. I don't think they're in business anymore.
Yeah, it was in Texas. That company.
Yeah, I know my shit.
These guys right here, yeah. So they went out of business, huh?
And they were all DOD guys, dude. They were all like DOD dudes, man. Like guys who had this stuff. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like all dudes who had they found this shit in a box somewhere and then built it.
Did they go out of business, or did their net worth increase once their business got bought out? Like,
that's a good question.
Because they could have easily just got bought out. And
then, that's a good question.
Tank it.
We need to get you on Joe Rogan, Jeremy.
That's fascinating stuff. And maybe someday I don't want to do it for the fame, man. It's just
No, I don't want you to do it for the fame either. But you speak a lot of truth, man. I'm just gonna say this,
I
not to
just
like
don't want that many eyes on me, man. I
not
hate
to boost your ego, dude. But when you went on Concrete and you started talking shit about Bob Lazar and Element 115, I literally I paused it, went and popped a bag of popcorn and came back and poured a beer, and I was like, this is about to get good.
There's the link, Jeremy.
It
Business
was good,
Technologies.
man. I could go for another 3 hours on that.
Oh, I bet. Look at that tower, dude. Look at this thing he built. And JP Morgan shut it down because it was going to give everybody free energy, dude.
Exactly.
100%. You know it was. You know it was.
Yeah.
And if you look in the center of it, you see this big beam that's in the very middle. If you look through the construct, look at it. You can see it right here in this picture he's showing right now.
It's also a weapon.
That went deeply into the earth. That beam in the middle
went into an aquifer
deep,
or whatever, right? Like
it's still there. If you go there and you run LiDAR across it, the hole that it made is still there, and it goes very deep. So
yeah, so that's trying to hook into these telluric currents, which are natural Earth currents, and
those are the kind of Birkeland currents too.
Yeah,
that were theorized, right?
Yeah, it deals with Birkeland currents.
Ether, dude. It's literally just the ether.
Resonance.
You can call it the Birkeland current or whatever you want to call it. It's
the Birkeland, Christian Birkeland's an interesting dude, right? Christian Birkeland is the guy who built that. I forget what it's called, but he built this thing. It's like a vacuum tube with a spherical electrode in it, and then around the sphere formed these visible plasma ropes, like plasma areas, high intensity areas, which if you lay those areas directly over Mars, Jupiter, Earth, what you find is like the Great Red Spot to the Olympus Mons, right? The largest volcano or whatever mountain in the solar system.
Telescope.
And then if you go to Earth, you have Hawaii, which is a hot spot of volcanic activity. So there's these this plasma that kind of gives away some nature of these planets and moons and the nature of these things at a large scale. So
the James Webb Telescope pictures have shown the Birkeland currents in fine detail now all throughout the universe, all connected. And I'm sure we've all seen that side-by-side comparison of the brain's neural net compared to the universe and how they look similar. Well, all those lines connecting everything are an example of what a Birkeland current is, but they're actually braided pairs, and they twist and they're in pairs, and they connect every star, every galaxy, every planet. Everything is connected through this net, and there's evidence for like energy being transmitted through there almost instantaneously across distances. Like,
there's a great
video. It's a solid science that is going to, I think, revolutionize, as we're now proving all these things with these new discoveries. It's going to shatter the current paradigms. It should have already, but there's such a stubbornness in mainstream science and physics for change.
Well, they know everything already.
Well, it takes forever to get a new idea accepted, even when the evidence is right in front of them.
It takes more than forever. It takes like an act of God.
And then you got to consider the deep state influence in universities. Like for Jeffrey Epstein, for example, they blackmailed scientists and professors and stuff like that.
They blackmailed everybody, dude.
If you go down a science that they don't want you to go down because you'll uncover the UAP technology, or you'll uncover free energy, or you'll uncover XYZ, they will do whatever they can to get that person away from that line of questioning. And that's gone on for over 100 years. So
yes, Max Planck said, science advances one funeral at a time, man.
Yeah.
Painfully.
That's dark as hell, dude.
Isn't that dark? Yeah.
It's so true.
No, he lived through it in the 1920s with the invention of quantum mechanics. And, there were still scientists denying that, even as people were using it to invent radio and all this other
Marconi
stuff.
didn't invent the radio, though. We all know who really did.
Yeah, exactly.
Nikola Tesla.
See, there
didn't the guy who find germs also get laughed at?
Oh yeah, the guy who said there was these tiny animals that were.
He's like, there's germs, guys.
Hey, we should wash our hands before we shove them inside somebody.
That's stupid. It's spirits. It's
stupid.
Why would we wash our hands when we already prayed?
It's
why do you wash hands? You already prayed.
Yeah, why would you wash your hands? You already prayed it away, dude.
We already got it figured out. Hey, I'll say this one thing about Birkeland currents real quick. The best visual example you could find that these things exist is if you look at the aurora of Jupiter. and you just look at, they studied this because the northern lights of Jupiter have these nodes, these very intense like balls that like constantly go around, then orbit the North Pole. And they found that those are connected directly to the moons. They're related to Jupiter's like most high intensity magnetic moons. And then so you can visibly see, and that's when the NASA was like, oh shit, every moon is connected to every planet, and every planet is connected to every star, and every star is connected to each other.
Yep. Exactly.
It's a trip. But they even talk about new ways of monitoring things, right? They talk about I've heard people talk about this. The new ways of monitoring, like
in the chat, by the way,
even like submarines, is they monitor their magnetic, like Birkeland currents. They monitor. They can tell what's connecting to what.
Yeah, it's
dude. I can't get over looking at Wardenclyffe Tower, dude. Like that's so gnarly, how big it was, and you talk to the locals that were still alive at the time, in the early 1990s, and like what that thing did to their town, like with all the weird like anomalies from the electromagnetism.
A quick video link.
Well, you know, Oppenheimer, Kevin was a big Bhagavad Gita guy, big Hindu guy. You know, for I am become death, destroyer of worlds, Mohenjo-daro, right? So
yeah,
crazy. Yeah, I remember I did a video on this Sura facility that tests
what is that?
It looks nuts. It looks like something
that looks crazy. What the hell is that?
Yeah, so this is a facility in Russia that was
abandoned, right?
It was abandoned, but it's still. I think it still like functions on some like. But they used it to test insulators for the electrical insulators. So they had these Marx generators that could produce tens of millions of volts, so that they could test how well insulators could insulate against extremely high voltages and stuff.
Dustin says it was a Russian missile zapper. Maybe so, Dustin.
I don't know about that, but I know that they did test a lot of. It was like rumored to be the Russian HARP. And Russian other, but
I can see where he gets that though, because Tesla did say he had an energy weapon, and he probably did. So like he probably did. I just think it's funny that I grew up in the American public school system, and all you heard about was Edison, and then I get to be like 26 years old, and I'm like, who the hell is Nikola Tesla? Then you find out like all this crazy stuff, and you're like, oh, my electricity's because of him.
Yeah,
everything's because of him. But I wasn't taught anything about him. That alone is really sus to me,
So it's in Istra, Russia. We found it one time. I don't know where the heck it is, but it's near Istra, Russia. This is outside of Moscow, is where this facility is.
New Jerusalem, dude. There's a New Jerusalem in like every freaking major city.
New Jerusalem. Where the heck is it? You can see it on Google Maps from from space. It's like this.
That dude from YouTube who can find anything on Google Maps.
That dude from TikTok or whatever, like
that TikTok guy is crazy, dude.
I'll find it. Just give me a minute. I'll find it in a second. It's on here somewhere. I found it before. I don't know.
People will tell you that Nikola Tesla was this dude that loved pigeons. Maybe he wasn't in love with pigeons so much as he was sending, messages through those pigeons, because he knew that, his hotel room was surrounded by, Soviet intelligence and FBI.
He's the first birds aren't real guy.
Maybe
this started with him. Dude.
Wally, while we're looking for this, Wally Tank Force says Skinwalker Ranch's interdimensional portal, lots of aromatic critters emanating, not unlike UFOs. Man, Wally, I've talked to everybody from Skinwalker Ranch, man. I don't know what's going on there.
Even the Skinwalkers?
All I can tell you is that the book that George Knapp and Colm Kelly wrote is full of garbage. That's all I can really tell you.
You're talking about werewolves at the Capitol or whatever?
Werewolves and
Skinwalkers at the Pentagon.
Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. I redesigned their book cover, but they didn't bite. I hope on the second edition they bite.
Yeah, I doubt it. And George Knapp says he has element 115. You know what? Show it, brother. Show me the element 115. Well, I can't. I need Ross Coulthard to tell you more about where he has alien UFOs that they built a building around. Can't tell you where that is either, though. Trust me, bro. It's always just trust me, bro bullshit constantly. Just getting old,
I have sources. Oh, by the way,
I have so many sources.
Yeah, I connect a lot of that deep state to like contractors like Battelle. I wanted to mention this earlier when we were getting into all the contractors and Intel and stuff, but Battelle has some of the patents on nanothermite linear cutter charges. So on the thermite, shape charges and stuff, they were patented by Battelle. And they're also the guy, because they're the metallurgy experts. They know how to melt steel beams and not leave any traceable slag or other components. They would know how to do that kind of stuff.
Skinwalker, Sherwin Celeste, while you're looking for that, says either Skinwalker Ranch is legit or elaborate psyop. Yeah, it's legit. There's definitely things that happen there. I've talked to everybody. If you want to know the truth behind Skinwalker Ranch, just go on Twitter or X and look up Chris Bartell. And if you can't DM him, message me, and I'll get you in contact with him, and he'll tell you the truth. He worked out there for 8 years, so that's what changed my mind.
Bigelow was kind of I feel like he was pretty honest at one point. He said something like, the phenomenon is always presenting itself in different ways. It's impossible to study. It is there's a sense of gamesmanship involved.
Well, it's a trickster.
It's tricking. It like will do one thing, you expect it to do it again, it doesn't. It sounds to me like it like it's a very. What are your theories on what is there?
Me?
Yeah.
My theory is that Skinwalker Ranch is like I think it's like a test facility for ECCMs and psychological warfare weapons and stuff. That's what I think.
Yeah, and there's things buried there from the 1950s. If you guys watch Carl the Crusher or Carl Vibe, he's been a lot of research on Mount Wilson and other things that were buried there in the 50s. And these are technologies that have patents. These are things you can trace. Things you can hold on to.
Facilities
right?
or just or artifacts or
I'm
objects.
talking like antennas that emit frequencies that make you think and see things.
Purposefully buried into the ground.
Yeah, and then the caves they find, and all of a sudden there's like this cave in, and then they find these traps. I don't know for sure. I haven't gotten to go there yet. I'm not sure if Brandon will let me on there. He's kind of mad at me right now because I asked him a couple questions he didn't like. But that being said,
is there like a co-opting or a fabrication of so-called Native American significance of the area to like fuel this idea that it's a natural kind of spiritual thing, or did they choose the Uinta Basin because it already had an established lore to it?
Well, maybe so. I do know that Brandon bought this book, which was like really old, and he donated it to the Native people to try to stay on their good side, the Ute tribe. And so, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of weird things about Skinwalker Ranch that are just odd. But Chris lived out there for 8 years, 7 years. And he did see a dire wolf, though. He saw like a 6 foot on all fours wolf jump out of a ditch in front of him.
There's a video of a dire wolf size animal. There's a really great video. Yeah, there's a really great video.
And that's a big ass wolf. Like that's a dire wolf. That's not even like it's a creature that's been extinct for 2,500 years. So,
what was it doing there?
Yeah, his dog didn't give a shit though. Props to that dude's dog.
That's the only thing that gave us the scale, right? Because in this video that we're talking about, like there's this black mass in the woods, and then a regular sized dog is approaching and barking, and then it stands up, and it looks like a supersized dog, and then it chases his dog, and then his dog runs off, and the owner's like, "God damn it!" And then the video cuts, but you can tell this wolf is. If it stood up, you'd be at its shoulders or something.
Yeah. So what Chris saw, if you go back to that thing you just showed, Jeremy, with the orange thing, that thing. So I'm 6'5", so the wolf would have stood. The wolf that he saw stands 2 times, like one more wolf higher, so about neck level, I think, to a meter. So
yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, so they were huge.
And I have the pictures, man. I have the pictures of the canine prints. I have the pictures of him measuring it. And he called Calm Kellier, and he said, "Hey, man, hey, Calm, I know you're making $400,000 a year off of this just sitting in your office in Las Vegas. We just saw this giant wolf. What do you want me to do about it?" "Oh, well, if you see it again, call me back." Click. They didn't give a shit. And Chris Bartell will tell you that. And he hates Jay Stratton too. So,
what is Bartle, right? What does he think of the story of the old ranch owners who, when they showed up to like move in, they had to shoot a dire wolf-sized creature, right? And
I think he would tell you that happened because he saw the wolf himself. So I don't know for sure.
Jeremy, are you familiar with
Chris Martell's the man.
I love him, dude. He pops into space. He's so respectful and nice. He does photography too, right? Like he does,
yeah. And he's cool. Yeah, I've become like real life friends with that guy.
Dude,
and he saved me from the woo, dude. I was all in him on how, like all this stuff, and and if you talk against this kind of stuff, dude, you just get bombarded. It's like a cult these days,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
they need supporters.
People are like, how dare you? How dare you come forward and speak ill of my Messiah? And I'm like, I just want to know what's going on. I'm sorry. I'm just asking a couple questions. Asking a couple of questions here.
I just want to know if there's any science. And they're
remember Corey Good? Remember Corey Good's 20 and back meme?
Yeah,
the 20
Dude, don't
and
even
back.
get me started. I told Jimmy Church yesterday.
And then they brought me back at the same age as when I left.
They didn't heal me the way I wanted to be healed, but I was still healed. And I told Jimmy Church yesterday, I said, how about you publicly apologize for supporting David Wilcock and Corey Good? How about have some integrity? No, he'll just go hang out with James Fox,
I used to buy into Corey Good, or not Corey Good, David Wilcock, hardcore back in the day. Years ago when he first started, I was fairly young in my search, so everything he was saying, I was buying at the time.
Dude, when I went to jail, someone doxed me on Twitter, and I got sent to jail for 25 days. And to be honest with you, I was running from a warrant at the time, but still, someone found my address and all this stuff, and I went to jail, right? And I go to jail, and they had David Wilcock's books in the jail. Like, he's a master grifter. Like, he's literally getting his books and sending them to like state penitentiaries to him. Like, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. He kept making predictions just a few years in the future, and then he'd write another book saying why it didn't happen, and then he'd make another prediction.
Prophecies. The book is called The Michael Prophecies. It's only
that stuff,
for the small fee of $333 US, you can buy all 6 books today. And you can go to his website, and you can't buy one of the books. You have to buy all 6, and it's literally $330. You could buy a second edition Lord of the Rings for that. It's
crazy.
Joke,
well, it doesn't get good until the 5th, until like right around the 5th.
I pirated it, and I read like the first 2 books, and it was just literally just rambling nonsense. And Stephen Cambion, a good friend of mine, he loves you, Jeremy. I think you talked to him before, but
Steve's good. He does some good work.
He brought up the fact that like if you're in the Catholic faith and you call yourself a prophet, you can't be wrong one time, not one time. And he's been wrong about 3,482 times. So
yeah, he has been, dude. It's just crazy. And it's crazy because Kerry Cassidy and some of these other same people who promoted Will Cox and Corey Good and these other frauds like
Sarah R. Adams.
Yeah, Sarah Adams. There was the other guy that was the murderer there that Kerry Cassidy was interviewing and swearing that he was part of the secret space program and everything. Yeah. Well, these are the same people that are putting out the rumors about Amy Eskridge's death and making grifts off of starting. They're the same people like starting the conspiracy rumors and spreading stuff about her.
Now, Amy was the lady that was found dead in her SUV, right?
No, she is out in the backyard in the field behind the house, I guess. Is the way I heard it, is that she either shot herself in the head or someone else killed her.
What was she investigating or exploring?
Gravity.
Okay. So she ran this company. It talks about the advanced concepts. So she started this company with a friend of hers. Sam Reed is one of the guys who is one of the friends of hers that I heard about. But the other one was this Shayna Butler. Shayna Butler, another female or something she had started this. So she had this company that she ran apparently, and remember she was in the Estes Park conference. I remember we were trying to get into the Estes Park conference and present some stuff, and then she had got us kicked out of that. basically by her clout with the organizers of the conference, who just they liked her because she was a girl, and they wanted more. It seems like they just like to have her included because she was young and she was a female. To what it seemed like to me, she always talked about how her dad was involved with this and that, and but she was being traced by these people that were spies, and there was another version of her from the future that was time traveling
Oh my
and could
God.
travel back in time and mess with her own timeline. So she was saying that, you know, it was her from the future.
I don't buy that Jack Safardi time travel bullshit, to be honest with you, brother.
So I used to call her the time traveling disclosure princess, because she was always saying that she was going to be in charge of disclosure through her father, who was supposedly Richard Eskridge, who was this NASA scientist, plasma scientist.
It's like some Looking Glass stuff, though, isn't it? Really? Like,
yeah, it was really weird stuff, man. She like, I have a 3-hour interview that I recorded with her that I've never released because it's quite unflattering.
What? Oh, it's bad. Well, you know what, dude?
She's getting drunk the whole time, and like, but she lets a lot of stuff out when she's getting loose, you know. So like, she's telling me that this stuff about
hey man, alcohol has led to a lot of slips at the bars, brother. You know,
anti-gravity.
Talk to Richard Doty about it.
But she's telling the story about like this time traveling thing, and it was just really mind-boggling. She said that she'd gone in, she went into Target to get nicotine strips, and that there was none left except this one package that it was sliced open in a weird way, and she was convinced that it was herself from the future going back in time. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just, you know, can't you get like the video surveillance from Walmart?
What do you guys think about Greer, and specifically about his outings that he does, where they all sit in a circle and
I'm
then
not
they
Parrish, hold on, Parrish.
Stephen Greer.
Parrish, I don't know where that. Yeah,
I don't know where
very
that came
interested-
from, man. But like I'm clearly on something else here. Sorry, I had to take you out, man. I'm clearly like, I don't want to. I'm trying to get some points across and stuff, and we're almost to two.
So
we're
you did
2.5
a 3-hour
hours
interview with
here.
this lady. You did a 3-hour interview with this lady, and she, like you said, she was getting drunk the whole time. And she said that she went into a CVS, or I guess it would have to be a Walgreens,
A Walmart, yeah, Walmart.
A Walmart, and she found something. She found a nicotine pack, the only one left, and it was cut open. And she was convinced it was her future self, but she didn't go get the footage.
But she couldn't have any footage or anything to prove it. She was trying to convince me that it was her future self and that she was time traveling and all this stuff. It was some really wild stuff. And then she was convinced that these people were watching them. She dated my friend Mark for a while, Mark of Falcon Space. So Mark, you know, went to he flew to down to Alabama to go visit her a couple times and stayed for a week, I guess, with her family, like at her dad's house. So Mark actually met her dad and was out there. There's a stream of where he calls.
Damn, she's the same age as me. She would be the same age as me. She was born the same year as me, man. I mean, I know it sounds like lunacy, but you know, I don't know what happened to the poor girl, but I hope she rests in peace.
I don't know what happened either, but like,
Jeremy, how close was this Walmart event to?
These people are spreading these rumors about her being some kind of like secret disclosure and anti-gravity, and that she was like some key or something. And bro, I knew her and talked to her for months, bro. Like, she never shared us any goods or anything that they would have killed her for, you know?
So it's just okay. I get where this is going. Okay, I understand. All right.
All right. I don't know, man. I think, yeah, Havana syndrome, dude. So Mark says that they got zapped with a friggin' energy ray, like while they were at her house, and there was this SUV outside, like across the street when it happened, and all this weird. Yeah,
I don't disbelieve that. I mean, I don't
some weird
disbelieve that.
Stories about these people zapping them with like Havana syndrome weapons and stuff like that. There was some
That's
weird
interesting,
stories, man. So
the American government, you think, or you think
Jeremy
she's making this up?
I don't know who, man, but it's someone from that. But I don't know if she's making it up too. I don't know if she's just paranoid, like
what's your take
almost. But I kind of
what's your take on Havana?
Oh, I think they have weapons. Definitely, they can
of course they do. Of course they do.
I could probably build one if I really wanted to, like mess around with that stuff. But I haven't been. I know that Jeremiah has built the voice of God technology.
Yep.
He's tested that, so he can put voices in your head, man. That's real. That's real.
voices in your head and probably induce a dream-like state, right? Where,
Yeah,
like,
it's called
there's a crossover between schizophrenia and like REM sleep. It's very similar brain waves. These hallucinations can be visual and intense and emotional, and it's very similar to someone if they were in a dream state. And if you could induce that state into someone remotely with this technology.
Maybe you could get that because I've had sleep paralysis once in college, man. And I was convinced that an entity came in my room and opened my door and walked into my room and was going through all my stuff behind me, and I was paralyzed, couldn't sleep or turn over in the bed and look behind me. And it was that's real. I wonder if there's a frequency that you could induce inside a human that would cause that.
I think there is. It's very, we have two states of mind. It's the REM sleep and when we're asleep, and then when we're awake, and they're so different. The difference is like frequency. The difference is just which part of the brain is producing which chemical, and all you can do that all with electromagnetics. I'm pretty sure of it. Like they're even doing it in these labs, right, where they're doing high intensity electromagnetic pulses. And after so long, they're able to wipe a memory out of someone's head of something, or induce an instinct to create.
Yes, right? Men in Black neuralizer shit.
They've studied this stuff.
Saw swamp gas from Venus.
Exactly.
Yeah, they studied this for 60, 70 years,
yes.
Dude. As long as this whole thing's been going on, they've been studying these things. When it comes to Amy, though,
I don't know what happened with her, man.
Dude.
But
yeah. Something happened. It sounds like if your friend said that there was did your friend also say he saw the van?
And
man, there's he's reporting some weird stuff, but I don't know if she's just
in my eyes, Jeremy, that's a multiple witness account. So you can't just throw it out with the bathwater, right?
It's not easy to discredit everything, but maybe she was killed before she could leak the secrets. I don't know, but it's just a one of those weird things. But I just hope that that people don't spread false rumors about her and the death and everything. And I just hope she can rest in peace. And that
probably don't release that 3-hour thing then.
I don't want to, man. It's
just
probably
don't.
I'm not going to. If people want to see it for research purposes behind the scenes, they're welcome to. Ross Coulthart actually contacted me, and I gave him access to it. So Ross has seen it, if anyone asks him. So Ross,
he's going to try to sell it on his podcast, I'm sure.
No, he's not. He was looking for the next big story, I'm sure, but I didn't find it. Unfortunately,
I was going to have him on my show, Jeremy, but because he found out I was going to have Stephen Cambion on there, he did not show up.
Oh yeah. Well, guys, where do you have a channel or anywhere I can follow you? I know people can go check out Tupacabra and UFO-Shane on Twitter. I follow both of them, so if you can find them through my Twitter account. If you guys,
I have a YouTube channel as well. Give that a sub if you guys want to. I just produce like short form video content, some long form stuff too. But
yeah, he does, and then he did an amazing Jack Parsons video. I have a channel on YouTube. It's the Extraterrestrial Explorers Enclave, which I don't know if you're gonna be able to find because it's like I need 50 subs before I can go live, Jeremy. But I do most of my things on Twitter Spaces, so you can just follow me on Twitter, and we talk about all the. Jeremy comes on the show. Jeremy came on the show Friday, and I've gotten Jeremy. You killed it that night, man. On Friday, dude. That was a great show.
Fun, man. We gotta do that again sometime. That was awesome.
You let me know, dude. Like you're highly requested. I messaged Jack Sarfati earlier, but I've had Brandon Pugel on there, James Fox, Stephen Mira, Barry Fitzgerald. I've talked to everybody, trying to figure out what the hell happened to me, right? So, and that's the thing I want to say though. If you are interested in this topic, you can go on Twitter. And you can talk to these people yourself. Don't have to wait for me to do it for you. You can do it yourself, right? Just message them and talk to them and be active and you can have these people on your own spaces. It doesn't have to come from me or Tupa or Jeremy. You can do it yourself as well. And we need more of that. The more the merrier, in my opinion, as Astro would say.
Heck yeah. So definitely, guys, go check out those channels. Subscribe. Parrish, I know I cut you off on the Stephen Greer topic, but I want to wrap this up because it's been going on too long and we could just go down.
Stephen Greer's full of shit, so
yeah, he started out on the right path in 2001.
He went like this
project, but then
he went like this.
Yeah.
I think it was the death of Bijou that really
man. UFO Judas.
Let's not send him
But Yeah, thank you guys. Cool stream. Great stream.
Thank
I
you.
learned a lot of new stuff.
Thank
So
you,
thank
Jim.
you guys for jumping on and sharing all that stuff with me. I'm gonna definitely, yeah, the Thunderbolts project is super popular. They have way more followers than I do, and I would definitely like to interview some of them and look into that a little deeper. I mean, some of the stuff was not I've seen is okay, but I mean, it's just as long as you're learning real physics too and supplementing, don't just focus on and go down one path completely. Definitely always listen to both sides and make sure that
Absolutely.
Well, if you go into a rabbit hole, right, just tie a rope so you can pull your ass back out.
Yeah.
right,
That's really all it
exactly.
is.
Yeah,
Just
just
sit on the fence, and then if you go into a
breadcrumbs.
rabbit hole, yeah,
I go
have
out of my
somebody
way
pull you back out.
to study both both the detractors and people that support an idea. Always, you have to read
yeah.
both sides to get a full understanding of the topic, right? Yeah. Thanks. I really enjoyed myself. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, guys. Thank you so much. Alien scientists, peace out, guys. Thank you for watching. And till next time,
There's
keep
Jeremy.
looking for the truth. Here's the StreamYard link if anyone wants to jump in and hang out backstage. We'll be hanging out for a bit. So come on, hop on and share some thoughts in private. Thank you, guys. Have a good night or good day.